Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Kushina trained Naruto after Wave. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Kidan Yoshilda and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1, Aftermath. Lady Hokage? A young man asked as he entered the hospital room of Kushina Uzumaki, and she held her baby for the first time since his birth a day ago. The 22-year-old red-haired young woman looked up at the young man no more than maybe 15. The young woman sighed. She had yet to get used to the title that her husband has passed on to her. Luckily she would have help in that matter when she appointed new advisors. The council wishes to see you, the young man said again as he sat next to her. Kushina looked at the young man. You can go, and tell the council to go. Foo. She was cut off when her baby boy had started crying. As quickly as she could she had tried to quiet the baby down once more. A small chuckle was heard from the door to her room. Hiruzen Sarutobi had walked in and stood next to Kushina. You should be more careful what you say from now on, young lady, the man who was once called the professor said. He took a seat next to Kushina as he looked at the baby in his mother's arms. Kushina, however, couldn't look at him. She looked away as she said a small, I'm sorry. Hiruzen looked at the young mother before him and smiled. It had saddened him greatly when he had lost his wife, but he couldn't blame her for something that she had no control over. It's not your, nor is it Minato's fault that Biwako had died yesterday, he said softly. Ma'am, what about the council meeting? The teen asked. Kushina wanted nothing more than to stuff a kunai up there. Kushina sighed and looked at the young man. Tell them that I will hold a meeting in 2 days. I'm not cleared to leave the hospital yet, Kushina said. There was just so much to do. That never stopped you before, the teen said. Kushina glared at him as Hiruzen just laughed a little. I don't heal as fast as I used to, Kakashi, so stuff it, the young woman said. She laid down as she handed her baby to the teen now known as Kakashi. Drop him and you'll be joining your father, she warned. She turned her head to look at Hiruzen. As for you, tell that asshole Danzo that, the next time he sends root after my son again, that I will kick his ass so hard that they will have to surgery remove it. Hiruzen nodded. He will deliver, after he talks to Kushina. I will, he said. Now what about your new advisors? He asked. Kushina turned her head to look at him. I want you and Sensei, she said tiredly. Hiruzen nodded. Getting Tsunade back was going to be hard though. As if reading his thoughts, Kushina handed him a scroll. Have that pervert deliver that to her, Kushina said. Tell him that if he doesn't find her in the next few days, I'll ban his porn. Hell, I'll ban all porn from the village. Hiruzen smiled, knowing that this would get his old student moving to find his teammate. Hiruzen looked at Kushina as she had finally fallen asleep. For now he was acting Hokage until Kushina was up and about again. Truth be told, she should have died when the Kyuubi was removed from her, but her bloodline and her chakra had kept her alive. Slowly getting up, Hiruzen had summoned one of his monkeys to deliver the message to Jiraiya, and with the added message as well. Before he left, he turned to look back. The baby, whose name was Naruto, was asleep in Kakashi's arms. The teen that had just started training in Umbu had also fallen asleep. Hiruzen left them alone. He had a message to give to a one-eyed bastard. Tsunade. A woman with long blonde hair turned around and growled. Coming up the road was with long white hair and an odd headband on his head. What had caught her attention though was the fact he looked like hell. When he had caught up to her, what he said next had her blood run cold. Minato was killed in battle. Tsunade wanted to scream. She had lost her only child. Her apprentice looked at her as Tsunade had fallen to her knees. Someone attacked Kushina just after she had given birth to her son, Jiraiya said. Tsunade looked up, tears in her eyes. She had lost her baby to that damn village, just like she had lost his father, and the uncle he had never known. So is Kushina dead too? Tsunade asked. Kushina was Tsunade's student. While not as good in medic ninjutsu, she was a terror in her own right during the war. She was so young and she had a lot of promise. If only she had gone with her, she would still be alive. However, what Jiraiya said next had her head moving so fast both Shizen and Jiraiya heard a cracking sound. No, Kushina is alive, Jiraiya said. But get this, before he died, Minato named Kushina Hokage. Tsunade's eyes had widened. That was one of her dreams, but after Minato was named Hokage, she had given that up in favoring her then boyfriend. Soon after she had beaten Minato, after she found out she was pregnant, she had married him. Tsunade smiled. Finally something good was happening. Then a scroll was handed to her. What the? Tsunade opened the letter, and her eyes widened. It only said a few words, but she had gotten the message. Tsunade-sensei, I need you back at the village, please. Kushina. Tsunade looked at Shizen, who smiled and gave the older woman a small nod. Getting up, Tsunade looked at the two of them. Let's go home, Tsunade said. She had failed a lot of people in her life. Her brother, her lover and father of their child, her grandfather and grand-uncle. However, she will not fail her student and daughter-in-law, and most of all her grandson. 2 days later, council meeting hall. The room was in a buzz. The meeting had yet to start, and already tempers were flying. On one side of the room was the civilian council. They had yelled at anyone they could think of that the child known as Naruto Uzumaki should be put to death. On the other side of the room were the shinobi of the village. So you want to kill a newborn child just because you think he's the Kyuubi? Some Inuzuka yelled at a pink-haired woman. I don't think I know he's the Kyuubi reborn. The woman had argued back. Some crossed her arms. There's a difference between a scroll and kunai, you dumb bitch. Some cursed at her. Makes me wonder who the real monsters are. He was looking at all members of the civilian side. Just before things could get out of more hands, the door was slammed open and Danzo came falling in the room to land on his face. Next time you talk to me like that, you old fool, I'll have you killed. Kushina said as she walked into the room. 2 days has done wonders for the young woman as she walked into the room. She was wearing a red and black kimono top with the Uzumaki symbol on the left side. Her Konoha headband, which she had not worn in a long time thanks to her being in Umbu, was across her now slim waist to act as a belt. She wore the standard black ninja pants and black steel-toed boots that came to her knees. She had on black figureless gloves with metal painting on the back of them. A katana was across her back and pouches were hooked up to the belt. Listen up and listen well, you stupid fucks. Kushina said as she sat down in her seat. If anyone ever tries anything funny, or tries to kill him, I will execute you myself. Do you understand? Kushina asked as she looked at the civilian council. Kushina was leaking killer chakra all over the place. However, like in all meeting, there was just that one fool in the coward that had to put in his 2 cents. You can't do that, he said. Why are you even Hokage in the first place, outsider? The fool found out the hard way why Kushina was Hokage when she had flashed. Yes, she flashed before the fool and held him by the neck. I'm Hokage because that was the last wish, which Minato had wanted. Kushina said before she slammed the old man down. I'm no more an outsider than you are a ninja. I have fought long and hard beside most of the people in this room. I have bled alongside them as we fought to protect your worthless asses. Kushina made her way back to her seat. I am Kushina Uzumaki, the 5th Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. Kushina said with a hard look in her eyes. As of right now, people, there are going to be some changes, both for the good and maybe a little for the bad. It all depends on who you ask. Kushina then looked at everyone. Believe it. To be continued. Chapter 2, it starts. Sitting behind her desk, Kushina Uzumaki, the newly appointed Hokage, was working hard, harder than any other Hokage that had ever ruled the village of Konoha. Next to her was her newborn son of only a few days, Naruto Minato Uzumaki. Whoever that bastard was, if I ever see him again, I'm going to rip out his. The young mother's thoughts were stopped as there was a knock on the door. This better be good, or I'll have your head. Kushina yelled out. The door opened and a young woman no more than maybe 15 walked in carrying a small stock of papers. I'm sorry, ma'am, but these just came in, the teen said as she sat the stock down. Kushina sighed. She would hate having to do this, but she had no choice. Placing her figure in a cross shape, she softly cried out. Kagebushin no Jutsu. 5 clones appeared before her. Each of you take a pile and fill them out. Kushina order. She then looked at the teen. Yes, my eye? She asked softly, as she walked over to the baby. Kushina looked at her then nodded. The young teen smiled and gently picked Naruto up. She gently held him close to keep the newborn warm. Kushina looked at the teen and smiled a little. It's hard to believe that this sweet innocent baby is thought to be. She stopped her train of thought as she looked at Kushina. I'm sorry, ma'am. It's just that a lot of the villagers are afraid, she said. Kushina looked at her and nodded. I was scared for a little bit as well, but as I hold him, I'm not scared anymore. Kushina sent down her pen and turned to the young woman. A lot of people fear what they don't understand. I myself was afraid at one point, Kushina said. I originally came from the lost village, as your generation calls it. The teen looked at her in shock. Kushina smiled. That's right, I'm a survivor of Whirlpool, Kushina said. I was 10 when I came to Konoha. The village had just been destroyed. We did have enough people left to help rebuild, so it became the lost village in the history books. Kushina got up and stood before the window looking out it, and watching the people of Konoha move about. I can't tell the reason why I was brought here, but I can tell you that the day that I arrived was the best day of my life, Kushina said with a smile. Then that smile turned into a frown. When Kushina turned around, the teen was still watching here. Ma'am, if I may ask, when was the last time you slept? She asked. Kushina shook her head. I haven't been able to sleep very well, Kushina said. I keep having nightmares and that idiot knocking me out and making me Hokage, Kushina said with a frown. If Minato were alive, I would have probably kicked his wimpy butt. The teen just smiled as she rocked Naruto. The 4-day-old baby had fallen asleep in her arms. Wimpy butt? She asked. I always thought his butt was cute. Kushina gave the teen a look that said don't go there. Yes, well, he looked like a wimp when he was a kid, Kushina said. Did you know that he saved my life a few times? The teen shook her head. The rest of the day was spent with Kushina talking to the young teen. When the clones have finished the paperwork, it was well into the evening hours. Go home already, Kushina ordered the teen. And thanks. The teen smiled and looked back at Kushina. You're welcome, ma'am. With that, the young woman left Kushina in the office. Thank you, dear, Hiruzen said as his daughter walked up to him. She needed someone to talk to. The teen nodded before she had relished the henge that she had worn. Standing in her place was a black-haired young woman about 24 with blue eyes and black hair. "She hasn't been sleeping too well as far as I can tell," she said. "Kind of reminds me of you when Oroki-chan went AWOL." Hiruzen gave the young woman a look. She backed up and raised both her hands. "Sorry, Daddy," she said, giving him the sad puppy dog eyes. "Rain, I asked you never to bring that up again." The young woman, who was now known as Rain Saratobi, could only smile. Hiruzen smiled at his eldest daughter. "Do you blame her?" he had to ask. The only one had blamed the death of their mother. However, that blame was laid on the tiny newborn that was sleeping next to his mother. "I thought long and hard about who to blame for Mom's death, and in all honesty I don't blame either Kushina or little Naruto," Rain said. "No one knew what would have happened that night. You yourself could have been killed if you were there as well," Rain said. "I know Mom won't want us to blame rather one." Hiruzen wished he could believe her. His eldest son Sasuke, named after his grandfather, had almost declared war on the young woman and her son. His youngest and his daughter seemed to have disagreed with him though. "Better get home to that boyfriend of yours." Hiruzen with a glare. His little girl had been dating the same boy for the last 2 years. They had just moved in together about a month ago. Rain smiled and hugged her father before she left him standing in the hallway. Hiruzen looked back at the closed doors that led to what used to be his office. He prayed that Kushina calls it quiet soon so the young woman can get some sleep. As the former Hokage turned and walked down the hallway that led out of the building, Hiruzen made a special note to tell Kushina about meeting with the Fire Lord. "And you are sure that this young woman can handle the position?" the Fire Lord asked. He was sitting across from Hiruzen with a folder before him. After all, she did just lose her husband. Hiruzen nodded. He had seen Kushina will of fire the day that she had met with the council. "Kushina has quite a unique background," Hiruzen said. "She first came to Konoha so that she could replace Mito Uzumaki, a relative of hers, but we could never prove it, to replace Mito as the new host for the QB." The Fire Lord nodded at that. "She had trouble getting along with the people of the village. They always were calling her outsider and such." The Fire Lord looked at the picture of Kushina as a child. "However, and I tell you I don't know how many times she got in trouble, but she would fight back," Hiruzen said with a smile on his face. "She never gave up when it mattered though, even during the war when she sadly lost 2 of her teammates." The Fire Lord looked over the piece of information. "Kushina is highly skilled in ninjutsu, kenjutsu, genjutsu and fuinjutsu, the like that neither I nor anyone else in the village has ever seen before." The Fire Lord looked up in shock at what Hiruzen had just said. He looked back down, turning pages over and reading detailed reports. "This young woman is truly amazing," he said, looking back at Hiruzen. "I approve. Make sure that the Ninja Council votes her in." Hiruzen nodded. "Yes, of course. Why are we here again?" Kushina had asked. She was seating in the Hokage chair in the council room. "Oh right, to vote me in." Kushina then handed everyone a copy of something. "The piece of paper before you is the last will and testament of Minato Namikaze, the yellow flash of Konoha and the 4th Hokage," Kushina said. "In it Minato had stated that I, Kushina Uzumaki, is hereby from this day forward the 5th Hokage of Konoha," she said, looking around the room. "Anyone here have a problem with that?" Several hands from the civilian side were raised. "Oh, I'm sorry, this is a ninja matter. What the fuck are you even doing here?" Kushina had asked. A man no more than 40 stood up. "We have a right to be here, Lady Kushina. It is our duty to make sure that the right choices for the village is made," he said as he sat back down. "Right, and I vote that we look for a new Hokage," someone else said. This person had bite-pick hair and green eyes. "We can't let this outsider run things. Who knows what would happen?" Kushina slammed her hands down on the table and looked at the woman. "Fuck you, you old bitch!" Kushina yelled out. "The 4th Hokage has named me the 5th Hokage. Hiruzen Saratobi, Tsunade Senju and several clan heads have already voted," Kushina said, making everyone look at her. "As of right now, this so-called outsider is now the leader of Konohagakure no Sato." Kushina then blinked. "Why the hell am I telling you all this again? And what the fuck are you two doing here?" Kushina asked as she glares at Koharu Yuditane and Hamaru Midokado. "I removed your sorry asses as my advisors." Kushina said she wanted to hear their excuses. Sadly, what they had said was true. "Sadly, Kushina-sama, you have yet to take office," Koharu said. "While yes, you are doing paperwork, you have yet to become the official Hokage of this village." Kushina growled. "Do not get us wrong, young Uzumaki. We will step down once you swear the oath of office." Kushina turned back to the other in the room. Shika Nara stood up as he was the head of the Nara clan. "Kushina Uzumaki, as a ninja of Konohagakure, you have shown bravery in the face of countless dangers. You have also shown that you have a strong head on your shoulders and a gentle heart," he said. "That being said, I believe that Minato Namikaze made a good choice in the 5th Hokage." Kushina smiled. Each member of the clans had stood up to say what they believed. Some had voted against the idea, while most had nothing but to agree. However, it was again a fool that had ruined her good mood. The only reason that Minato had appointed this bitch as Hokage was because he was fucking her. Kushina was on her feet so fast that no one but a few people had seen her move. "She attacks anyone without reason," the person said. "She's hot-tempered and will no doubt cause more harm than good for the village." Hiruzen was behind Kushina, holding her back from attack the head of the Uchiha clan. The old man behind could hear the young woman growling. However, Kushina does love the village more than anyone that I have ever seen. Fugaku said. I think it would be an honor to have Kushina as the 5th Hokage. Kushina smiled at him. However, he wasn't going to get away with what he had said. She'll have to tell Makoto about it. That'll take care of him. Hiruzen let the young mother go, and Kushina sat down. The young woman then sighed and looked at Danzo. Have you done what I have told you to do? She asked. The old man looked her way. Yes, Lady Hokage. Kushina had raised an eyebrow. Oh really? Kushina snapped her fingers and 2 men were brought in. It's a funny thing, Naruto decided that he was hungry in the middle of the night last night, so I woke up when I did. These 2 men happened to have been in our home. Danzo glared at the 2, his message was clear, do the mission and be successful or take the cyanide pill. Seemed that these 2 idiots didn't understand very well, however Kushina saw the glare. Now normally they would have been killed on the spot. Kushina said. Once I knocked them out I took these. Kushina tossed a bag with a type of pill in them. Kakashi, clear the floor. Kakashi left the room, making the others wonder why the floor was cleared. 2 seconds later no one saw Kushina move. She moved in a flash of red light, was standing next to Danzo and had picked him up and had thrown him hard to the floor. Everyone hears something snap. They told me everything. Kushina said, picking up Danzo by the neck. I had wondered how that masked man was able to find me. Kushina then punched Danzo in the chest. Again everyone heard something break. I had nothing to do with that, I swear. Danzo gasped out. I'm trying to protect Konoha, not destroy it. Kushina growled. It doesn't matter, you tried to have your men kill me and take my baby. Kushina held out her hand and to everyone's shock a sphere of dark blue energy had formed. Don't please. Danzo begged. I was only thinking about the future of Konoha. Kushina did say anything. Hiruzen stood up, ready to stop the young woman. He did have to. Kushina dropped Danzo to the floor. She turned her back on the old man and walked back to the table. Kushina, look out. Someone had warned. Kushina had spun around so fast that Danzo did see Kushina fist go through his shoulder. What happens next shocked everyone as Danzo's arm was blown off. The old man yelled out in pain as he landed to the floor. I should kill you, Kushina said. However, I need you alive. Kushina nodded to the few hidden Umbu that were stationed around. Gather all root members alive if you can. Stop them before they use the cyanide pill, the young woman said. And get this trash out of my sight. Then time Kushina made her way back to her seat. Inuzuka-san, have you been able to find any leads on the man that attacked me and my husband? Inuzuka shook her head. That's the funny thing, Lady Kushina, there was no scent that could have been followed. It's like he appeared out of thin air. Minato knew who had attacked but had died before he could have told anyone. How he was able to make his will and appoint Kushina Hokage was a mystery. Lady Hokage. Kushina looked up at the person who had called her. What are we going to do about the demon? Kushina growled. Hiruzen placed a hand on her shoulder. What demon are you talking about? The man looked back at her. The demon that you called Naruto, he said. Again Kushina had started growling. Just as she was about to tell the man off, the doors opened and Tsunade had walked in with Jiraiya. You lay one figure on the boy and I'm grounding you to paste, you understand? The blonde said. Sensei. 1 minute Kushina was sitting down, the next she was hugging the blonde woman like there was no tomorrow. Jiraiya, being the pervert that he was writing something down in his notebook. He just could miss the opportune moment like this one. Pervy sage, don't make me ban your books, Kushina said. We're still in a meeting, you know. Tsunade went back to her seat and looked at the man that had wanted her son killed. We do nothing, and I mean nothing, she said in a hard voice. Naruto is a baby, and being a seal mistress myself, I can tell you that the fox is never getting out. Her words had comfort some. They had heard about Kushina and to the extent the Uzumaki clan sealing abilities. Don't forget that Minato learned from my mother, importantly from myself as well. More relaxed? Look, the best place for Naruto is by my side. If the QB ever tries to get out, I'll deal with him myself. It was at this point that Tsunade and Jiraiya could see how tied the young woman was. Will you boy become a ninja? Someone asked. Kushina looked up. Fugaku had asked a question, and to be honest she didn't know. If he is anything like his father or me, Kushina said with a smile. Then yes, but only if he wants to. Tsunade stood next to Kushina. She had to do a full medical report to see if the young woman was going to be okay. Maybe we should continue this tomorrow, Kushina, you need rest, Tsunade said. The red-haired woman nodded. Rest could hurt at this point. This meeting is over for now. Meet back here at 10 am. You're all dismissed. Sim, could you come here a sec? I need you to lead a team for something. Sim walked up to Kushina and looked at the young woman. What do you need, ma'am? She asked. Kushina took out a map. I need you to look here, here and here. In Minato's letter he said that he was able to stab the man that had attacked in the side. I need you to find that kunai that has some blood on it. Sim nodded. Well, it hasn't rained lately, so the blood will still be there. Kushina nodded. Minato didn't have time to tell me who he thought it was. All he told me was that he left the weapon close by the battle he had with Kyubi. If no one had found it, then we can find out who it was. Tsum nodded. I'm on. Shouldn't be hard to find. No one was near that area. With that, the head of the Inuzuka clan left. The next person to step up was the head of the Yamanaka clan. I'll get to work on Danzo, let you know if he's telling the truth or not. Kushina nodded. When he had left, Kushina turned to her sensei once more and hugged her. Then she had done something that she hadn't done since the death of her parents. She cried for her son, for the village that was attacked that she felt like it was her fault, and finally she cried for her husband of only a year and 10 months. Tsunade just stood there rubbing the young woman back in a comforting manner, something that a younger Kushina had done to the older the woman. This was Tsunade's way of returning the favor. To be continued. Chapter 3. The snake bears his fangs. So how's the little princess doing? Jiraiya asked from his seat in the kitchen, feeding little Naruto from a bottle. He took one look at Tsunade and knew something was wrong. She had the Kyubi forcible removed from her. Tsunade said. That alone would have killed her. Tsunade sat down after taking Naruto away from his godfather. She'll live thanks to her healing powers. Jiraiya looked at the older blonde and smiled a little as she held the tiny baby. The odd part is the fact that Kushina chakra reserves are still high, higher than it was the last time I checked. Jiraiya only blinked at that. Kushina has always been a powerhouse, but now she's stronger than she was the last time I saw her. Jiraiya nodded. He knew it had something to do with the fox, but no one knew what. Kushina stronger and faster than most people her age. Was that the real reason Minato wanted her as Hokage? Health-wise she's fine. Considering the stress she's going through, I'm glad her blood pressure is normal, but it's her mental health that worries me. He saw the way Kushina was acting in the council chambers. He had never remembered her being that violent. Even during the war, having to go through what Kushina did and still lived was going to cause problems. I can see why she wanted me here though. Naruto had fallen asleep as the two have talked. The older blonde could hear soft purring sound coming from the baby and couldn't help but smile. For the billionth time she had wished that she had taken care of her son. But there was a war going on and she was only 15. Sometimes she hated Jiraiya, others she wished she could tell him thanks for being there. She looked up to you like a mother after her own was killed. Jiraiya said. That and the fact you're still her sensei even if she didn't sign the slug's contract. Tsunade nodded. She still had a lot to teach the young woman. Do you think I can still train her? Jiraiya shrugged his shoulders. Don't see why not. It's unheard of, but there's no rule saying that she can't still be in training. Tsunade remembered that. Her grandfather, who she barely remembers, was the first Hokage. He had always said that you will never stop learning, be it from your sensei or your students, you always learn. If it was to help protect not just your loved ones, but the village as well, his encourage any future Hokage to learn and train, never to give up protecting the lives of others even after a person has stepped down as the leader of the village. While you train her, I can train Naruto, Jiraiya said as he looked at the baby in Tsunade's arms. If you turn him into a pervert, I'll kill you, Kushina said from the doorway. She was wearing a gray t-shirt and black sweatpants. She sat down next to Tsunade, who handed Naruto to her. I want everyone in this room to train him, Kushina said. Even if he doesn't want to be a ninja, I want him to have a way to protect himself. Jiraiya and Tsunade looked at the young woman. We'll start his training when he turns 5. They both nodded. However, Kushina's heart was torn. She didn't want her baby to be a ninja. But if he was anything like her and Minato, it was going to be hell to say no to him. So the Whirlpool Prince is the new Hokage, huh? It wasn't a question that he would have liked to have heard. You disappoint me, Danzo. The old man looked up into the eyes of Orochimaru, one of the students of Hiruzen Sarutobi. He was pacing back and forth in front of Danzo's cell. You were to make sure that no one but Sarutobi-sensei was to return as Hokage. Orochimaru turned to the old man. What happened? Danzo didn't say much of anything, not that he could, since Kushina almost crushed his vocal cords. Oh, I forgot, you can't talk anymore. Orochimaru stopped and looked at the old man. Makes me wonder what would have happened if information got out about you halting the message from Whirlpool all those years ago. Danzo glared at the snake. How do I know about that? Simple, I'm the one who told you what was going on. Orochimaru's yellow snake-like eyes looked into Danzo's. Because of you I lost my one chance to get Uzumaki DNA. Orochimaru said as he had opened the gate to Danzo's cell. You messed up for the last time, old man. When Danzo started to scream, Orochimaru was saddened that the cry for help never reached past the old man's cell. The next day, Kushina looked at herself in the mirror, as she brushed out her hair. Today was finally the day that they were going to lay Minato Namikaze to rest. Some people had wondered why it was taking so long. The truth was that there had been a lot of good shinobi that had been lost. It had taken time to gather them all. Not only would she be saying goodbye to her husband, but she would also have to say goodbye to several of her friends as well. She knew that at least one of her friends had a young son that had just turned 12. He had lost his parents during the attack and was also badly wounded across his nose, leaving a scar. The boy didn't have any known relatives in the village either, and he didn't know of anyone else in the family. A soft cry had alerted Kushina that she was thinking too much again, and walked over to her little son. Naruto was going to grow up without a father, but that didn't mean that there wasn't going to be any male figures around to help him. Since the death of Minato, Kushina had decided that she wouldn't marry anyone else. She knew that Minato would have wanted her to move on, to find someone else, but she just couldn't bring herself to do it. Even if she did hate him back in their academy days, she still was very much in love with him. The proof of that was in her arms, in the form of her baby, her little Naruto. Naruto had his father blonde hair, but if you look closely enough you can see small traces of red mixed in. While Naruto's eyes were still blue, Kushina wasn't sure if they would change as Naruto grew. Kushina smiled as Naruto held her finger in his small hand. It still amazed her that this tiny baby was hers and Minato's. "I'm not letting anyone marry you, my little Naruchan," Kushina said, but for some reason she said something wrong and little Naruto started to cry out loud. Kushina didn't understand what she had said as she tired calming the little baby. Unknown to the small family, they were being watched. The shadows seemed to glow with yellow snake-like eyes as he watches the young woman and her small baby. He needed DNA of the Uzumaki clan, so that he could study their Kekkei Genkai. He wasn't sure if the rumors were true or not of a powerful Dijitsu called the Rinnegan. This bloodline was rumored to be more powerful than the Sharingan, and that it can control over all 6 forms of nature chakra. The reason it was only a rumor was that no one in the Uzumaki clan had ever used it. It was nothing more than a rumor that dates back to the start of the clan by a mysterious young man that many say was the 3rd unknown son of the Rakuta Sennin, or as people have come to know him as the Sage of 6 Paths. Orochimaru growled. He had to leave soon. He had carefully planned everything that had happened. But that damn brat Namikaze had to ruin everything. He was supposed to have died next to Kushina, who he knew had married the young man. Then Orochimaru could take as much blood from her dead body as he could get, grab the child and leave the village. Orochimaru looked down at the vial he had in his hand. This was all he had to work with. If he could find the strains in the cells to awaken the Rinnegan, then he could try it on the boy. But he needed to work fast. Time was wasting and his window was closing. He needed more time. The question was how? Then an idea hit him. He was on his way back to Konoha after he had a look around the battlefield hoping to get some blood samples. He was losing hope when he happened upon one of Minato's kunai. The blood was dry, but he could work with it if he hurried. Knowing the red-haired Hokage, she would have sent a party out looking for this weapon, hoping to find some clue as to who had attacked her. An idea had suddenly formed in his head. If this worked, not only would he get the DNA he needed, but he can also kill 2 shinobi with 1 kunai. Hokage Tower. Later that day, Kushina sat in her seat with her hands on her head. The day had been long and hard for her. As expected, a lot of people had shown up to pay their respect to the lost Hokage. Some had chosen not to listen to her while others did. You think after so many years people could grow on you? The young woman had thought. Maybe it wasn't Yoshina-chan. Kushina's eyes had widened and she had nearly fallen out of her chair. Kukurama? The young woman had asked. There was a small chuckle that had entered her thought. Who else, dear child? Kushina frowned at that. How? You're in my son now. There was some silence for a few seconds before the fox had talked again. It doesn't matter how young one. What matters is that we need to talk about what had happened. The fox was quiet once more as a knock came to the door. Yes? Kushina asked. The door opened and Orochimaru had walked in. Kushina never did like him. He had smelled too much like snakes, and then there was just something about him that had bugged her. Orochimaru was very good at what he does, often called a gifted ninja. However, he was passed over as the 4th Hokage. Whatever the reason, she had to listen to the older man. I was returning from a mission when I came upon the battlefield, Orochimaru said. As I was walking around, I happened to have found this. Orochimaru had bought out the kunai that he had found. Kushina's eyes widened. It was one of Minato's and it still had blood on it. Could you show me on the map where you found it? She asked. Orochimaru smiled, not showing the small grin that he had. Yes, my lady. Kushina bought out the map she had on her, and the snake-like man had showed her where it had been found. That was right around the area she had Tsum and her team look. Did you run into Tsum on your way back? She asked. Orochimaru shook his head no. Tsum's husband had died in the attack, leaving her 2 children alone. All right, let's get down to business. Kushina looked the man in the eyes. What do you want? Orochimaru gave her a soft laugh. Just a few drops of your, and the baby's blood, the snake man said. Kushina raised an eyebrow. You hurt me, dear lady. I just want to make sure that both you and your baby are going to be healthy is all. The older man laid the kunai down on the desk. I assure you I will do no harm to you or the baby. Kushina sighed and held out her arm. Make it fast, I hate needles. Orochimaru nodded and took out 2 needles. One was for Kushina, while the other was for Naruto. Once Orochimaru was done, he took the smaller of the 2 needles and started to draw blood from Naruto. I want you to test the blood on the kunai, Kushina said. I need to know who attacked us and caused Minato to die. Orochimaru bowed his head and then left the office. He had a lot of work to do and so little time. However, one thing was for sure, the baby known as Naruto was going to have one hell of a ride. To be continued. Chapter 4. The snake hidden in the leaves. It was one of those rare days that Kushina had time not only to herself, but also with Naruto. Kushina knew how important it was being the Hokage, but it was harder when she was also a mother. Kushina decided that since it was a nice sunny afternoon that she would go for a walk in the park, and see if any of her other friends were around. She hasn't seen much of her friends since the attack. In some way she still feels that it was her fault that so many had died. As she walked through the village she could hear the soft whispers of the villagers as they looked at the small baby in her arms. The baby was sleeping peacefully in her warmth, and Kushina had wondered if maybe there was something wrong with him. Both Tsunade and herself had run scans all the time on the child and had still found nothing wrong with him. Tsunade thought that unlike with Kushina and Mito, Naruto chakra corals were adapting to Kurama. As Kushina walked she had wondered what it would have been like if Minato was still alive. Her idiot, but lovable husband had used the wrong seal and ended up killing himself. The death god seal should have been used if there was no other way. Kushina sighed, maybe he didn't know about the other seal. Kushina was so lost in thought that she didn't notice the fact that several men were following her. Remember, the boss wants the boy unharmed, the leader of the group said. Someone pointed his shoulder. We're not alone, the person said while pointed over to some other buildings. The other people that were following Kushina looked to be Ambu. However, there was something not right with what they were wearing. Shit, it's Root, the leader of Orochimaru's group said. We need to act fast. If word had gone out that Danzo's dead, this could get ugly if they are looking for revenge. Still lost in thought, Kushina didn't see the men jumping down as she turned the corner. Kushina Uzumaki, the 5th Hokage of Konoha, the man said, making Kushina look up. The young woman growled out at him. He was wearing a cloud headband with a slash mark over it. Hand over the baby, or we'll be making him an orphan. Kushina backed up only to back into another missing nin, this one from Rain. We don't wish to hurt you, just hand over the baby. Kushina growled and moved away from him. She couldn't them with Naruto in her arms. Where the hell were her guards? Unknown to Kushina at this point was that the division unknown as Root had decided that they had waited long enough. Just one day ago they had tried to free their master from his prison, only to have found out that he was killed. No one knew why he hasn't been found out earlier, seeing as how Danzo had been dead for little over 5 days. The second and third leaders of Root have met. They had talked it over and had decided that enough was enough. No one had known who was the second in command to Danzo was. That was until he had removed his mask to show that it was none other than Fugaku Uchiha. This has gone on long enough. Konoha deserves a much stronger leader, he had argued. He would have waited a few more years to do this, however. Kushina had forced his hand. Neither his son nor his wife knows of his plan. Only Danzo and Elder's advisors, before they had gotten fired by the red-haired woman. Word had gotten out that the attack was going to happen that afternoon. When the members saw the new Hokage, they felt disgusted with her being the leader of the village. Then there was her baby, Naruto Uzumaki, the host of the Nine-Tails Fox that had attacked. It didn't take long to convince some of the non-Root members to help rebuild a new Konoha that would show the world why it should be feared. Of course Fugaku and the Uchiha clan would run things. However, first thing was first. So it wasn't really a surprise that when his men had tried to kill Kushina and her son, that not only Umbu had attacked them but some of the ninjas that were loyal to not only the Hokage but Kushina as well had started a counterattack. There was so much chaos in the streets of Konoha that no one knew what had happened. Fugaku could only do one thing, which was to slip into the shadows and let Root get destroyed by the Konoha loyalties. He still had a backup plan, but it would be several more years before he could execute it, but Konoha would be his, like it should have been when his great-grandfather helped build the village. Kushina could hear the battles going on all around her. Damn it, what the fuck is going on? She thought to herself. Has the whole damn village gone insane? Kushina couldn't deal with it right now as she had focus on the men before her. Is that your handiwork? Kushina asked. The man shook his head. No, then whose? She needed someone to blame, might as well be Danzo's Root members. She didn't know how right she was when a man wearing a mask of the same program came flying into the ally way and crashed into a wall. The men were running out of time, they had no choice. Orochimaru might hurt them or worse, but they had no choice. They all attacked at once, causing Kushina to go on the offense. She blocked punches with her legs that were aimed at her and ducked under kunai. Her blocking wasn't really that good, seeing as how her hands were full with the baby. From her place on the ground, Kushina lashed out with a hard kick to one of the men, groin hopping to get him off guard. It worked, and Kushina was able to make a run from the opening she had made. She didn't get far and something sharp hit her left knee, causing Kushina to hit the ground. Just as she was about to get up, she was kicked hard in the face, knocking her and Naruto several feet across the road that they now fought in. The men had stopped as they saw the chaos that was taking place. Get the kid and let's get out of here, the leader said. The second man walked up to Kushina, who glared at him. No harm will come to him, just hand over the baby, he said. However, when Kushina still didn't do what he said, he made her look around. The fighting was going on harder than before. Your village needs her leader. Which one are you willing to sacrifice? He asked. Your baby or the village that you have sworn to protect? Kushina looked around. She couldn't protect both. With heavy tears, Kushina stood up, then she kicked the man in the face. Don't you ever think that I would be willing to get up both? Kushina yelled. Kagebushin no Jutsu. Kushina yelled out, drawing several shadow clones to her side. What had shocked them the most was the fact that Kushina didn't use any hand signs. Attack! Kushina yelled out to her clones. The clones had started to attack the two men at full force, seeing as how they didn't have a baby in their arms. Two of the men had been fighting, the third was nowhere to be seen. A second later, as she had turned to leave, she had felt something enter her back. You have forgotten the first rule of shinobi, the man said as he had removed his blade from her back. He had made sure that she would live, though she would be in pain for some time. Never turn your back on an enemy. He then took the baby just as the clones went up in smoke. Come on, we have a baby to deliver. As they had walked away, Kushina could hear the cries of both the villagers and Naruto. Kurama, Kushina said in a weak voice. I need your help. However, she didn't hear anything from the fox. She had tried getting up off the ground, but the pain was too much. This wasn't going well for the young Hokage. Her village and her son needed her. With a cry of pain, Kushina slowly got up and looked at the men retreating backs. If there was ever a time to use the Haraishin, now would be a good time. Reaching into her wristband, she pulled out a small needle. This was known as saban, and unlike her husband's kunai, they were better to carry around because of their smaller size. On each one, though, there was a special seal that she and Minato have been working on. This seal was what allowed both Kushina and Minato to end up with their nicknames, even though Kushina had two more. But the name Red Death was the most famous among the ninja world, and much like the Yellow Flash, she was hated by several villages for her part in the war. Throwing the small needle, she quietly ran through several hand signs. In a red flash, Kushina was before the men that had taken her son, and with a cry of Rasengan, twin attacks ended up hit their targets. This was another move that Minato had taught his beloved. However, unlike with Minato's, Kushina's Rasengan explodes when it hits. As the two bodies hit the ground, that man holding the crying Naruto had backed up. Put the baby down and surrender, Kushina said coldly. Otherwise you'll die a slow and painful death. The leader did have any other choice. There was always a backup plan, and in this case it was venom from a deadly snake. It was slow acting, but the medic that worked for Orochimaru had the anti-venom to counter it. Taking out a small needle covered in the poison, he poked the baby in the arm. Naruto started crying like crazy. He then did something that no one should do. He dropped the poor crying baby to the ground. Naruto stopped crying and Kushina was seeing red, and in another flash the man was dead. Kushina kneeled next to Naruto to see if he was breathing. He was, but it was very slow. Shina, you need to get him to the hospital, Kurama finally said. You bastard, I asked for your help. Kushina yelled back. Tears were in her eyes as she gently picked up her baby, making sure to brace his head and neck. I'm sorry I couldn't help you. I'm limited to how far I can talk to you, the fox said. The baby been poisoned, we need to get him and you to the hospital fast. Kushina wasn't worried about herself. Taking out another saban, she had thrown it to where the hospital was. She just hoped that she can get there in time. Author note. I could be a jerk and end it here, but seeing as how I'm late with my update, I'll give you a special double-sized chapter. Author note end. Several hours have passed, and the village had once more calmed down. Kushina was reading reports after reports about what had happened, as for once was glad that she had fired the old hags that had once been Hiruzen and Minato advisors. She still wondered why he never fired them though. Kushina, you dummy, stay focused, Kushina told herself. It had been touch and go with both her and Naruto, but thanks to being the host of Kurama, a part of his healing had somehow mixed with her genes, caused her to have a fast healing ability. It wasn't as fast as when she was a host, but still faster than a normal humans. Naruto was going to be okay as well, seeing as how he had the same powers as her. However, Rin and Tsunade had both talked her into letting him be where he need, in the children's ward at the hospital. She trusted both women with her life, seeing as how that they had taken her in right as she had gotten to the front door. As Kushina was healing, she had asked for the reports about what had gone on around the village, and why Root was attacking. Kakashi was there to make the report as well as Might Guy. Would someone please explain to me, was the hell Root had attacked the village it was sworn to protect? Kushina asked several of her ninja. Ma'am, it seems that there was an oversight, Guy said. Kushina looked at him and shuddered, though damn eyes brows had to go. It would have seemed that a Danzo Shimura was found dead in his cell. Kushina looked at him. She never gave the order to have him killed, she needed him alive. Damn it, Kushina cursed. What else could go wrong? It was at this time that Kakashi handed her another report that had just came in. This one was handed to her by Asuma Saratobi, the youngest son of Hiruzen. I'm sorry that I'm late, Lady Hokage. He said. This caused Kakashi and Guys to raise their eyebrows. Been spending time with Kurinai, I see, Kakashi said. The silver-haired young man then ducked under a punch that had been thrown his way. Kushina sighed. Of all people. Knock it off, you two, or you'll be cashing terror for the rest of your lives. The two had stopped fighting and looked at their leader. Right, I'm sorry about that, man, Asuma said. He then looked at his report. We did a check to see who dead in the fight and those that had been injured in the fighting. Kushina didn't like the sound of this. It would seem that several people have been missing for some time now. Kushina blinked at that. Several teams, as well as civilians, have been reported missing. However, what is more disturbing though is that fact that a total of 60 people have gone missing in the last few months. Why was she just hearing about this now? It doesn't make any sense. What was worse was the fact that if they started to investigate now, any trail that they had would have been lost. Who was the last person in charge of this? Kushina asked. Asuma looked down at the report. When he looked up, she saw something in his eyes. That would be Orochimaru, he said. What the hell? Kushina thought as she saw the look in his eyes. She didn't know why, but she felt hatred from Asuma when he said that. But why? Why would Asuma hate Orochimaru? Get him in here, I want to know why he never brought this up. Kushina said. She was about to get up when she felt pain in her lower back. Not tonight, young lady. Tsunade said as she walked in. Sensei, how's Naruto? Kushina asked. Tsunade looked at her and gave a small smile. Sleeping. I got Rin and one other person watching him tonight. Kushina had a worried look in her eyes. Tsunade smiled. She walked over to the redhead and sat down next to her. He'll be okay, Kushina. Tsunade said, taking the young woman's hand. Kyubi had started his healing the moment he hit the ground. Sure, there was some bruising, but that baby is just like his mother. Kushina nodded. She just hoped that Naruto can forgive her one day if he ever found out that she was almost kidnapped. One of the nurses watching Naruto just looked at him with hatred. Because of this boy she had lost her fiancé when the fox had attacked. Oh, she knew that the baby wasn't the fox, but she was one of the few people in Konoha to that his mother was once the host of the fox itself. I'm going to get some coffee, you want one? She asked, not wanting to be near that thing any longer than she needed to. Rin looked up from reading a book and nodded. When the nurse left, she walked over to the baby and sat down next to him. You look him, Rin said. She started petting his hair and he could hear a soft purring sound coming from him. Must be most likely the fox's doing, Rin thought. She reached into her pocket and fingered the vial that had whatever it was that Orochimaru gave her. I'm sorry, little one, but my mother is very sick, and Orochimaru promised to cure her of her illness. Tears filled her eyes as she cleaned a spot on his arm. Taking the syringe, she shakily placed it on his arm and poked him. As soon as whatever it was that was in Naruto blood system had sent a shockwave throughout the baby's body, his chakra flared up so fast that Rin was on her back before she knew what had happened. Shina! Kyubi had yelled out. Something's wrong with the kit. She could hear the panic in his voice and was up before she even knew what was going on and had ran down the hallway to the nursery. Tsunade followed after her as she tried to catch up with her student. When they had gotten to the room, they had been forced back by the pressure that came from Naruto's chakra flare. What the hell happened in here? Kushina had all but yelled out. A cry for help made Kushina and Tsunade turn their head to look at Rin. The chakra flare had stopped by this time and Kushina walked over to Rin. However, as she got closer, she could see something in her hand that made the red-haired young woman seeing red. Kushina picked up Rin by the front of her shirt and held her. Why? It was just one word, but it made Rin cry. He promised that he would cure her if I did this, Rin said. Kushina looked at Rin. Who? Rin couldn't hold back her tears. If she told her, then Orochimaru would kill her. My mother, Rin said. Kushina slammed Rin into a wall, still holding her by her shirt. That's not what I asked, she said. I want to know who forced you into doing this. Rin could hear the growling in her voice. I can't, he'll kill her, Rin pleaded. As Kushina was dealing with Rin, Tsunade was checking over Naruto. She was shocked to learn that the baby was beyond fine as she ran a scan over him. All the bruising were now gone as if they was never there. On top of that, it looked like most of his baby fat was gone. She had to do a blood test to make sure if Naruto was really okay, but for some reason she couldn't shake this feeling from him. It was a feeling she hadn't felt since she was a little girl. She felt warmth that only had came from one other man. That man had long ago passed away, killed in a fight with one other founding member of Konoha. That man was her grandfather, the first Hokage. Shaking off the feeling, Tsunade turned to Kushina, who had Rin in a death grip. He's fine, Tsunade, she holding her grandson close. More than fine. He's in perfect health, maybe even more so than when he was born. Kushina turned to look at her. Kurama, you better have good news for me, Kushina told the fox. Shina, whatever it was that was injected into the kit, it had woken a long-lost bloodline, Kurama said. I'm still working on it. I will tell you what I know as soon as I am done. Kushina held Rin to the wall, wanting to smash the girl's face in. However, she needed a name. 2 bloodlines have been awakened. How the hell does he have the Mokutan bloodline? Kushina eyes widened. The Mokutan? Tsunade turned to look at Kushina. That was the bloodline of her grandfather. No one in her family knew who to do the things that he had done. However, what Kushina heard from Kurama next made her weak in the knees. Holy shit, it awakened. It's not possible. Shina, your kid. No, your family's bloodline has finally woken up after all these years, Kurama said. Naruto has the Rinnegan. That was it, she had to sit down. Too long thought dead bloodline has awakened in Naruto. It was something that has never happened before, even when the Uzumaki clan was first starting out. She had read the records predated back to the formation of the clan a long time ago. It was something that she wanted to know about her family. She learned about the Rinnegan through these records. What the clan doesn't know is that the records at first were written by the founder of the clan. That founder was at first rumored to be an unknown son of the Sage of Six Paths. The rumors were only half right. The unknown child was indeed a child of the sage, but wasn't a son, but a daughter, a very beautiful daughter that was painted on her 25th birthday. The Rinnegan was the power that had helped form the known ninja world. It had been locked in the Uzumaki bloodline for so long that there was only one known record of anyone ever opening it. That person was her cousin, Nagato Uzumaki. She can't remember when the last time she had heard from him. Maybe Jiraiya knows where he was. Letting go of Rin, Kushina sat down. This was too much to take in. Kushina looked up to see Tsunade. You never did tell Minato that you were his mother, Kushina said. Tsunade turned her back on her. How is it possible for the Mokutan to have awakened in his blood when neither you, nor your brother was able to? Tsunade turned back to look at Kushina. That was when it hit her. It was forced. They both said at the same time. There was only one person in all of Konoha that could do that. Rin, given the fact that Naruto seems okay, I'll let you go, but you have to tell me who gave you whatever it was. Rin looked away. It was possible that her mother was already dead, but what if Orochimaru can cure her? With a deep sigh, she knew what her mother would want her to do. What Rin said next didn't really surprise either of the women. It was Orochimaru. If there was anyone that didn't feel that power surge, they were either dead or in a coma. The smile on Orochimaru's face said it all. He had done it. The perfect way to learn all the jutsu, and it was thanks to one little boy. Of course he had to kidnap the boy again so he could study him, but for now he'll have to settle on another child that had seemed to adopt it to the genes of the first Hokage as well. He would try the Uzumaki cells, but he didn't want to risk his last test subject. Just as he was getting up to study another body, there came a loud banging noise from the heavily guarded steel door. Go away, I'm busy, he ordered. He turned back to the body and was about to cut it open when another bang rang throughout the room. However, this time a dent was made. Orochimaru only knew of one person that can do that. But she was out of the village, so it could be her. However, he was wrong when the door went flying past his head and crashed into a wall. Tsunade walked into the room, dusting off her hands. Hey snake breath, been a while. Orochimaru's eyes widened as he saw Tsunade followed by Kushina, Jiraiya and Hiruzen Sarutobi walking behind her. Orochimaru, you're under arrest, Kushina said. You can either fight and lose or you can turn yourself in. Kushina cracked her knuckles, proving once again that her sensei was. Personally, I hope you fight, Kushina said. Orochimaru didn't know what to do. However, Kushina didn't give him any time to talk as she jumped at him in blinding speed. With a chakra-covered fist, Kushina had punched Orochimaru hard in the face, nearly breaking his nose. The choice was made, he had to fight back. Getting up, Orochimaru dusted off his shirt. Tsunade punches harder. Kushina growled and ran at him again, only this time Orochimaru was ready and kicked the young woman in the chest, sending her back. Kushina got up and waited for the next move. Orochimaru, Tsunade, and Jiraiya may have had all the same teacher, but over the years each one had came up with their own fighting style. Kushina studied the moves in Orochimaru fighting style, and knew how deadly it could be. The moves were made to be fast and hard to counter. That was why Kushina made a style all her own. It was something that a young Uzumaki had to do, discover the best fighting style suited to you. Like any other style, it had taken her years to fully master, and she was only halfway there. She even had a weapon that fitted well to the style. The style uses her natural agility, flexibility and speed. It was a counter to the snake style in every way. Reaching for the pouches at her sides, Kushina took out a gauntlet with 3 blades, slipping it on over her gloves, and with a snap the weapon was in place. 3 long blades were now on the back on each hand. So you're going to use the fox style, huh? Orochimaru said. He brought out his sword, the Kusanagi. It's a perfect match for your snake style, and you know it, Kushina said. She had fought people with her style that had used styles that were similar to the snake style before, and she came out with little to no injury at all. Kushina ran at Orochimaru once more. The snake was ready for her, only this time he used his sword in hopes of cutting the young woman. Kushina blocked the sword with the back of her blade, catching Orochimaru off guard with a loud Kushina to slash him across his face. 3 bloody slash marks that went diagonal from the right side of his face to the left side, all 3 slash marks missing his eyes. Orochimaru didn't scream. He didn't have time to, as Kushina pushed her attack, this time moving the sword out of the way and slashed at his chest. Again this left 3 slash marks, this time from his left shoulder to his right hip. Kicking his back, Kushina moved out of the way when Orochimaru swung his sword trying to catch her neck. Strike 1. Kushina said as she blocked, spun around Orochimaru, and once again slashed him, this time in the back. Orochimaru tried to elbow her in the head, but Kushina was already on the move, this time slashing at his legs. Strike 2. Kushina said. Orochimaru had tried to fight back. How the hell was he losing to this woman? He was a Sannin, for crying out loud, one of the 3 strongest ninja in the village. He should be kicking her ass all over the place. That was when he realized it. Kushina was also practicing. No matter how strong she had gotten, she would only glow stranger. It didn't help that she had studied under not only Tsunade but several others as well. He blocked a strike from Kushina, and again he was rewarded with another slash cut. This time it was his left arm. What wrong, old man? Kushina said. Your old age catching up to you? Orochimaru kicked out, but again he was no match for Kushina as she just brought up her blades and they had gone right through his foot. Strike 3. Kushina said this time as Orochimaru swung at her. Orochimaru had known he had made a mistake. It had caused him dearly as Kushina caught his arm, and with one swing sliced off his arm at the elbow. This time Orochimaru did scream out in pain as he fell to the floor, hold what should have been his arm. You're out, Kushina said as she sheathed her weapons in their pouches. Orochimaru looked up, and as he did so Kushina slammed him with a chakra sealing seal. This had drained him of his chakra just enough to end his career as a ninja. You are hereby banished from Konoha. If you ever set foot in this village or fire country ever again, I will kill you. Kushina said. Be thankful that Hiruzen and Jiraiya asked me to spare your life. Otherwise you would have been joining your family. Kushina walked up to Tsunade, who was looking over a woman in her late 30s. Did you find her? She asked. Tsunade nodded her head. She had been dead for about a week now. Kushina then looked at Orochimaru. Hiruzen, did you find anyone else? The former Hokage looked at Kushina. His heart was broken when he had seen all the dead bodies. Among them were mostly children. How could the boy he had so much hope for do this? Orochimaru was once a gentle boy who hated war and death. Only one is alive, however, just barely. Hiruzen said. Orochimaru got up. He slowly made his way out of the door, followed by Tsunade. I want that trash out of his in an hour, Kushina said. She then turned to Hiruzen. I still don't think this is a good idea, Kushina said. She saw the look in the former Hokage's eyes. She knew what he was thinking and placed a hand on his shoulder. It wasn't your fault, Kushina said in a soft voice. I should have done more for him, Hiruzen said. Kushina hugged the old man in a soft embrace. She always did like Hiruzen. There was just something about him. It was that something that made him the best Hokage that Konoha Eve had. As she let him go, several ninjas had come in and looked around. They had seen Orochimaru being dragged out of the place. His one student, Anko Mitarashi, watched. She couldn't believe that he had turned traitor. That was until she saw the horror that was in the rooms. She wanted to start crying. Kushina saw her, and her heart nearly broken. Walking up to the teen, she knelt down and looked at her. I'm going to appoint you a new sensei, one that is a lot better than Orochimaru. Anko looked up. Who? She asked. Kushina just smiled. Why, me, of course, Kushina said, making Anko eyes widen. Jiraiya was in the room when she had said this and gowned. Oh great, just what we needed, another Kushina, he said, and then his world went black as Kushina had hit him over the head with a frying pan. To be continued. Chapter 5. Fire on a cloudy day. Ma'am, your 1 o'clock has arrived, Shizen said from the door. Kushina looked up from her paperwork. She's early, Fugaku must be getting to her, Kushina thought. Send her in, Shizen. The dark-haired woman nodded. Just as the door opened again, Kushina made several shadow clones. Keep working on the paperwork, Kushina told them. I want them done by the time school is out. The clones nodded and went to work. Kushina looked up just in time to see Mikoto Uchiha sit down in one of the chairs. Having fun, Shina-chan? She asked. Kushina frowned. I remember the time you screamed out that you would become the first female Hokage, Mikoto said. Kushina sighed. Then that same day you beat up any boy that had made fun of you. Kushina sighed and brought out a folder. I'm sorry, Mi-chan, but I am busy today for any small talk, Kushina said. We'll have to catch up on things at Hinata's birthday party in a few days. Both women smiled at that. Kushina opened the file that was marked with Itachi's name. Saw Kushina read his scores and the comments that the teachers made. She flipped page after page. The problem I have with Itachi graduating early is that I have no one to train him, Kushina said. Mikoto nodded. She understood that. However, there may be one person that can do it, Kushina said. She brought out other folder. This one was marked Shursui Uchiha. We have one graduate this year as well, Kushina said. Again, I have an instructors that could really help. Kushina was at a loss. Shursui passed his tests with flying colors. However, because he was the only one that had passed the test that year, he was placed on a waiting list. He could still train, but he could only do D-ranks missions until he was placed on a team. Then Ado came to her. Anko had yet to be placed on a team. Because of this, she wasn't able to make Chunin, and since there wasn't a war going on, she wasn't able to get a field promotion. Kushina looked at the files once more. Itachi and Shursui were the best of friends, almost brothers. They could get along nicely. The problem was Anko. Because of her sensei, she was mistreated to the point she wanted to break some necks. Kushina tried all that she could to keep the young woman calm, but she was failing. Shizen, Kushina called out. The dark-haired young woman walked in. Yes, ma'am? She asked. I need you to summon Anko Mitarashi, Itachi Uchiha, Shursui Uchiha, and Tsunade, Kushina said. Shizen nodded and left the office to do what her leader needed to. Mi-chan, I'm going to grant permission for Itachi's graduation. Mikoto smiled at her friend. As you can guess, I'll be placing him on the same time as Anko and Shursui. Mikoto frowned at that. She held nothing against them, it was just that Fugaku wanted to train both Shursui and Itachi. Why Tsunade? She asked. I won't lie to you, Mi-chan. I don't trust Fugaku, Kushina said as she crossed her arms and leaned back in her chair. I know you would never betray me, but someone told that masked bastard I was due to give birth. Mikoto sighed. Mikoto didn't tell anyone but Fugaku about Kushina, and then the night that she gives birth, Fugaku takes her out of the village for a romantic night out. Something that they could have done in the village. I understand, Shina, Mikoto said, using Kushina nickname. It was a nickname that only her closest friends have ever called her. I don't blame you, She turned away and looked out the window. I don't trust Fugake either, she said. Just as Kushina is about to say something, the door opened and several people walked in. Ma'am, as I was getting Itachi, I was asked to give you this, Shizen said as she handed Kushina a note. I think Naruto got in trouble again. Kushina growled. She opened the note, and she growled even more. It was quite funny how a 4-year-old was able to do what he did, Itachi said. As it turned out, Naruto had pranked several teachers. Kushina didn't want to know, so she didn't ask. However, she would have to talk to her son later that night. Let's get down to business then, shall we? Kushina said, and the others nodded. Tsunade wanted to get back to the hospital as soon as possible. Sensei, I called you here to ask you for a favor. I need a sensei for Shursui and Enko. Enko looked up at her sensei. Was she being pushed aside again? Enko has much to learn, and with my duties as Hokage I can't really train her as I like. Shursui, on the other hand, had just graduated as is in need of a sensei. Tsunade looked at the two teens. She could see the skills in Shursui. He held himself with a confidence that was unlike any of the other Uchihas. She then looked at Enko. The young woman was looking away from Kushina, and she could understand why. 4 years was a long time to be training under one person. However, because she wasn't placed on a time from her time since had graduated, she couldn't take place in the Chunin exams. That brings me to the reason why I asked for Itachi, Kushina said, bring Tsunade out of her thoughts. I have granted his request for an early graduation. Tsunade didn't need to think anymore. Within several months Enko could become Chunin, and after that, she could take the test for Jounin. With Shursui and Itachi's score, they could make the ranks in a short amount of time. Tsunade nodded. She liked the idea. Her team would be the fastest team to have ever make the ranks, even if they were still young. I expect, Tsunade said. I'll have Shizen fill in for me from time to time. Kushina smiled and nodded at her sensei. She then turned to Itachi. You still have to take the tests, however, seeing as how you have very high marks, I don't think you'll have a problem. Itachi bowed to the red-haired woman. Thank you, Aunt Kushina, Itachi said. Just as Kushina was going to say something else, Shizen once again entered the room. Ma'am, I hate to bother you, there are a massager from Kumogakure who wishes to see you. Kushina growled. How dare those bastards? She was about to tell whoever it was to get the fuck out of her village. However, what Shizen said next stopped her. They wish for a peace treaty. Kushina was still growling. I don't like to be kept waiting, Lady Hokage, the massager had said. Kushina was about to say something. However, Hiruzen had came into the room. He took one look at Kushina and Tsunade, and he understood. This was an important meeting, and he was needed. Let's get down to business then, Kushina said. She didn't like this one bit. It was because of those bastards that she had lost her homeland, and now all of a sudden they wished for a peace treaty. Over her dead body they wanted something in return. Over the next few hours things have gotten out of hand, and like little children, Kushina and the ambassador had started calling each other names. Hiruzen and Tsunade had to stop them from attacking each other so that they can get this meeting done with. I suggest that we break for the day, Hiruzen said. As you can see, Kushina is very busy with the going on of the village. Your unexpected visit had set things back. The Cloud ambassador sighed. Truth was, he had another mission to do and he couldn't do it in a damn office. Very well, we'll continue this tomorrow. He got up and walked over to the door. I hope you don't act like a child then, Lady Hokage. With that he was out the door. Kushina was growling. How dare they? Kushina yelled out. After all these years those bastards wish for a treaty. Yeah, right, knowing them they're after something, Kushina said as she looked out the window. Kakashi, I want you to watch him closely, Kushina said as the sliver-haired young man dropped down from the ceiling. Yes, ma'am. It was later than it should have been, Kushina sighed. She didn't pick Naruto up like she should have. Luckily she had someone ready to take him home and help him with his studies. She just hoped that he wasn't turning him into a pervert. I still can't believe that I let him get to me, Kushina said. It has been years, Kushina, Tsunade said. Maybe their new Hokage wanted to be more peaceful after what you had done during the war. Kushina nodded. She didn't really like what she did. While she didn't kill any civilians like they had done to her village, Kushina had nearly wiped Kumo off the face of the planet. It was the first and only time she had used a Bijudama. A Bijudama is a highly powerful attack between a Biju and a Jinchuriki. A lot of people don't know this, but the Rasengan, the move that was invented by Minato Namikaze, was based on this attack after seeing his girlfriend lose it on the battlefield. Only a few people know of that happening and that she was the former host of Kyubi. It had never stopped them before, Kushina said. They have both the 2 and 8 tails as well, Kushina said. Tsunade, tomorrow I want Jiraiya with us. Mate, if I throw in a way for their host to have full control over their hosts, we can finally end this damn feud. Kushina knew that it was going to be hard, but the war had taken its toll on the 5 great nations and maybe it was time for a change. That wasn't too much to ask for, was it? A world where children could grow without having to fight in a war. One could only hope. To be continued. Chapter 6. It's my party and I'll cry if I want to. We have to stop by my office first, Naruto, Kushina said as she and Naruto walked down the street. I have to give Sensei and her team a new mission. Naruto blinked at that. I know it's Sunday, but it was the latest that I can start the mission, and it's an important one at that. Naruto nodded in understanding. He really didn't want to go to the party, but Hinata came to his and gave him that nice book on jutsus. Naruto wasn't sure to get Hinata though, and had gotten her a book on herbs and gardening. Even if she can't read it yet though she can when she's older. When they had gotten to the tower, Naruto was asked to wait out in Shizen's office. Inside her office, Kushina handed Tsunade a folder. If you can, I would like for you and your team to leave tonight, sensei. Tsunade looked over the file. Her eyes widened a little. Are you serious about the sighting? Tsunade asked. Kushina nodded. He may not remember me, but I need you to go and talk to him. Kushina said. Hand him this little. Kushina handed Tsunade a scroll. That is the family seal on it. He'll know what to do when he sees it. Hard to believe that several years ago she herself was giving Kushina orders, but now the young woman before her was the one giving orders. Was this how Jiraiya felt when Minato surpassed him? Yes, ma'am. Tsunade said. Hard to believe that he's alive. Kushina nodded. There were so little of us that survived, but anyways you better get going before his trail gets cold. The last report that Jiraiya gave me says that he was going to start a rebellion with AIM. Tsunade growled. She had unfinished business in Amigakure, namely to beat the crap out of old name Hanzo the Salamander. You need to hurry, do whatever it takes, but you need to aid him. Kushina said. Please Tsunade, he's the only family I got left. Tsunade nodded. She had to hurry and gather her team. Within minutes Tsunade and her team was off to Rain Country. Maybe with a little luck, she can finish what her team had started years ago. Well, look who finally decided to show up. A young woman about Kushina age said as she welcomed both Kushina and Naruto. Hello Rain. Kushina said as she hugged her friend. Naruto, why do you go see the other children while the adults talk? Okay. Kushina said. Naruto waved at them and walked around back to where the other children were. Like most children, they were already engaged in a game, and Naruto had to wait until it ended. Troublesome. A voice said right next to Naruto. You're here too, huh? He asked. He had a pineapple hairstyle and lazy eyes. This was Shikamaru Nara. Unlike most kids, he didn't do much of anything except lay down on the grass and watch the clouds. Mom made me you? Naruto asked. Same. Hinata nice enough, wonder why she doesn't have many friends. Shikamaru said. Naruto shrugged. Probably because she's so shy. Another voice joined them, and the kid sat down next to Shikamaru. Naruto could help but wonder why the kid was so fat. Then he remembered something. You're Chuji Akimichi, right? Naruto asked. Naruto knew that the Akimichi clan was big in size. It had something to do with their bloodline or something like that, but he can't help but wonder if it was healthy for him to be like that. Okay, sorry I almost called you fat, Naruto said. He saw the look in Chuji's eyes and with a quick hand gave Chuji his secret stash of chips. The angry look in Chuji's left him as soon as the chips hit his hand. Hey, thanks, Chuji said as he opened the bag. Dodge that one, Naruto thought. Naruto looked around as most of his classmates were here, even though he didn't remember their names right now. Looks like they're done, Naruto said as he got up and was about to walk over to them when he spotted another kid. This one was wearing a long trench coat and was wearing sunglasses. What was odd though was the fact that he was standing few feet away from the others. Naruto didn't know his name, but he was sure it started with an S. Naruto decided that it couldn't hurt to talk to him, and walked up to him. Hey, Naruto said. Looks like the whole class came here. The kid didn't say anything. Naruto sighed. His mother had told him to be nice to everyone and that was what he was planning. Looks like they're having fun, why don't you join in? Again nothing. I can't, the kid finally said after a few seconds. They're all afraid of me. Naruto could only blink at him. Why's that? Naruto asked. The kid held out his hand. A few seconds passed and a bug of some kind came out. These are my Kikaichu, the kid said. Not many people like bugs. Naruto could disagree with him. He himself happened to like the bugs known as praying mantis. After a few minutes of talking to the kid, Naruto now knew as Shino Naruto joined the others in a game of ninja freeze tag. In this game everyone was it. They can only carry around one weapon, which in this case was a form ball. If you got it you were frozen. A teammate has to tap you in order to unfreeze you. If you got hit 3 times then you were dead and then out of the game. If there was only one person left on the team then the other team would win. So who are the captains? Naruto asked. Everyone looked to Hinata. Okay, that one, but what about the other captain? Looks like they're finally having fun, Rain said as she and the other mothers watched their children play. Kushina nodded. About time the runt made some friends, right Kushina? Some asked as she walked up next to her. Yes, and he better behave himself, Kushina said with a smile. Hey, who's the girl with the duck-shaped hair? Naruto asked, causing the other to look at him. Naruto, that's Sasuke, a girl with blonde hair said. And he's a boy. Naruto blinked. There was no way that Sasuke could be a boy, and look that girly. Man, you are dumb, a kid with brown hair said. Even I knew he was a boy. Naruto growled as grabbed some cake that had been placed out earlier and then asked, what was that dog breath? The kid whose name was Kiba looked at Naruto and said, you're stupid in thinking that Sasuke was a girl, Kiba said as he was about to eat some cake. However, Naruto had other things on his mind as he had thrown the cake into Kiba's face. I may be stupid, but at least I know how to eat cake, Naruto said. Kiba growled right back at Naruto and had thrown his cake at Naruto, who ducked, and the cake ended up hitting Ino Yamanaka instead. The blonde looked at Naruto, and then at Kiba as Naruto had pointed him out with a smile. When you have this many groups of children, then you know it was going to happen sooner or later. Later came as some had yelled out, "Food fight," and the next thing you know the children had started throwing food at each other. Though out the food fight no one seemed to have hit Hinata, who seemed to be laughing a little at the mess her friends were causing. She did join in the fighting though, and had gotten Shino, who in turn thrown his cake at Chuji. The whole backyard was in chaos, and Kushina was just holding her head, muttering about her child being the troublemaker that started the whole mess. "Hey Shina!" Someone had called out, and no sooner as she did she had gotten hit with a plant of cake, which was thrown by Mikoto of all people. "Now it's a party," she had called out. Everyone joined in as mothers hit their children with whatever was laying around. Still throw it all. Hinata, who was the birthday girl, was never hit. "What the hell is going on out here?" Hayashi Hyuga asked as he stepped out of his office. Everyone stopped of a second to look at him, and for some reason he didn't like that one little bit. Then as everyone that could, including Hinata, had thrown something at the head of the Hyuga clan. It was late at night by the time that the guest had to clean the backyard. Everyone was dead tired, and instead of going home, Rain had told them that it would be fun to have a sleepover. Kushina looked at her friend. "What are you 10? She asked. Truth was she didn't want to walk home carrying her son. "Oh, come on Shina, have some fun," Rain said. Kushina gave her a look. "I just did, thanks to my son." Said was sleeping soundly with his head on Sasuke's shoulder. The youngest Uchiha head was in the lap where Ino, whose head was on a pink-haired girl's head. All the mothers looked at the children was in one form or other was sleeping on someone. "Does anyone have a camera?" Yoshino Nara had asked. Everyone looked at her, and could only smile. Unknown to them, it was the best birthday party that Hinata would ever have. She made a lot of friends this day, and she even got to play the games she wanted. The added bonus was that she could be a kid. It was truly a day to remember. Unknown to Hinata, it would in more ways than one. All the children for the time being were moved to the dojo of the Hyuga household. Seeing as how it was a sleepover, somewhat everyone was asleep spread out. Naruto was sleeping next to Sasuke, and as he turned over smacked Sasuke in the face with his hand. Sasuke in turn had kicked Naruto's foot. Everything was nice and quiet until someone who wasn't supposed to be there had snuck past one guard behind. He had slit his throat. The man that had snuck in had a cloud headband and was moved pretty fast towards the dojo. He had a secondly mission to finish, seeing as how the Hokage was taking too long to decide if they would enter in the peace treaty. When he got to the dojo, he carefully opened the door, and he had easily spotted his target. The young purple-haired girl was sleeping peacefully next to two other girls, one with pink hair and one with yellow hair. Too easy, he thought as he made his way to the little girl. After carefully picking her up, he made for the door. After leaving the dojo and closing the door, he made a run for it, not sure if anyone else would have waken up. Just before he could clear the gate, a voice had stopped him. "So I was right." The voice belonged to Kushina Uzumaki. The guy knew he was in trouble. Kumo is still up to their old tricks. "Well, I got something to say to you," Kushina said as she stepped out of the shadows. "Tricks are for kids, and you're not welcome in my village." "Believe it." The man from Kumo only felt pain as Kushina had beaten him with an inch of his life. Hisahi watched as Kushina took care of the man that had tried to kidnap his daughter, who was now resting in his arms. "Thank you, Lady Hokage," Hayashi said. After a sound beating, Kushina picked the man up. "I want you to send a massage to your Reikage," Kushina said, shaking the man so that he would stay awake. "You tell him to get his fat ass down here, then we'll talk about a peace treaty. If he doesn't, I will destroy Kumo, just like I should have done during the war." The ambassador could only nod. Kushina had then thrown him into the wall. "After he sends the message, put him in a holding cell," Kushina said as she turned to walk away. Kushina was inching for a fight. If the Reikage wanted a war, he would have sent more than one man. Kushina had a feeling that it was going to be a setup, so she used the shadow clone to fool the guy into thinking she was asleep with the others. Kumo went too far this time. It was time she settled things once and for all. She wanted revenge for what they had done to her village, to her, but most of all to the false they had promised in a peace treaty. Enough was enough. That village needed to be taught a lesson. To be continued. Chapter 7, Hokage vs. Reikage. The Clash of Thunder and Lightning. Kushina had heard the reports coming in as the Reikage had forced his way into Konoha without the proper paperwork being done. This had sent the gate guard to the hospital in a hush to save his life. What the Reikage did would have been called an act of war. Kushina had told her staff to stay away from the Reikage and let him throw. Hiruzen was in a joined room where he wouldn't be hit fly the flying doors that Kushina would sure happen. She also had moved her stuff back and had the paperwork she had been working on in a box and had several shadow clones take it home to finish earlier. The Reikage wasn't alone. He had two other people with him. One was reported to be Killer Bee, a sword master and the host of the Eight Tails. What had her troubled was the fact that Killer Bee was a host that seemed to have gotten along with his bijou, something that she herself had done once before until Kurama was forcibly removed. The second person was a young sandy blonde-haired girl about 13 years old. She had her hair in a style that seemed like a cat's tail. So he had bought both of them, has he? Kushina asked herself. That could be trouble. Naruto not even trained yet, and if they spot him she didn't get the chance to finish her though as her office door was punched off its hinges. The door was sent flying out the door where it crashed into other building. Well, at least you knocked, Kushina said. However, I don't like the fact that you not only sent my door into other building but sending several of my ninja to the hospital. The man that had sent the door flying looked at the young redhead. Kushina Uzumaki, I should head your head, for what you did. Kushina crossed her arms. Attacking the ambassador for reasons of an unfair treaty? Kushina raised an eyebrow. So that his game. Stop being so full of yourself, you old fart, Kushina said. You know damn well what you ordered your so-called ambassador to do. Kushina stood up and slammed a folder down on her desk. He killed 2 members of the Hyuga clan and tried to kidnap Hinata Hyuga. Kushina turned around and looked at him. So don't come here demanding anything. The Reikage whom name was Iai was looking at the red-haired woman. He couldn't remember, but he had this feeling he knew her from somewhere. It wasn't until his little brother said something that had him seeing red. Holy shirt, it's the Red Death. Iai looked to his brother. He then turned back to Kushina. You! Iai yelled. You caused the death of my father! Kushina looked at her nails, then back at the order man. She hated people like this. They thought that they were so powerful that nothing could touch them. She was going to prove him wrong, and he caused the death of thousands when you and your little brother attacked Whirlpool. Killer Bee looked down. He had hatred attacking a village that wasn't in a war. Hell, the second great ninja war started because of the attack on Whirlpool. Something that his father was never able to understand. So that is what this about. Iai said. You want revenge for your tiny little village. Kushina growled out. This man was going to find out the hard way why she was feared during the Third War. No, it's not about that, or the fact your father had ordered my kidnapping. Kushina said. It's about putting a village of assholes in their place. Iai looked at Kushina. Was she planning another war? So you're going to attack my village again? He asked. If she answered yes, he would kill her here and now, then have his 2 Jinchuriki attack and make Konoha a burning rumble. Wouldn't dream of it. Kushina said, going back to looking at her nails. The way I see it, you have one of 2 choices. Kushina looked up at him. 1, we can act out age, sit down together and talk about a new and fair treaty. The Reikage looked at her and said. Or I can kick your sorry ass all over the arena in a gladiator match. The Reikage eyes widened. There was no way that she could know about that challenge. It was something that was never used anymore. In the days before any of the great ninja wars, it was a known way to settle things. Not long after someone got the idea for a war. Now that she had issued the challenge, he had one of 2 choices. He can back off and try to settle a new treaty with Konoha or face her in a fight. What do I get if we win? The Reikage asked. Kushina sighed. She had talked this over with both members of the council. She didn't like this, and neither did the members of the Uchiha clan and the Hyuga clan. If you win, you will get 3 things. Kushina said. 2 of which you will end up with both a member of the Uchiha clan and a member of the Hyuga clan. Iai nodded. And the 3rd? It was times like this that she hated the council. They had no right to do this to her. However, it was a surefire way to get her to win. If you win, the 3rd will be my. She stopped so that she could take a deep breath. Will be my son. The Reikage blinked at her. That was a pretty big risk, but why her son? Why would I want him? He asked. Kushina looked at Killer Bee and the young girl. Her eyes stayed longer on the girls when she said, because Iai, he is the 9 tails Jinchuriki. Everyone in the room had wide eyes. Iai looked back at his brother and the young woman. To have had 3 Jinchuriki would be so wonderful. In his mind he had already won. With 3 out of the 9 in his army he could rule the elemental nations. To top it off, he'll have an Uchiha and a Hyuga. Something that both he and his father had wanted. You have a deal. Iai said. Don't worry about your son, he'll be in good hands. Killer Bee sighed. Maybe you should listen to what she has to say if she wins, Master Iai, the young blonde said. Iai looked back at her and sneered. However, she did have a point. He turned back to Kushina. If I win, you are to hand over both the host of the 8 tails and the 2 tails. Kushina said. She was looking at Killer Bee and the young blonde. Iai looked back at the 2 of them. Unknown to the world, Killer Bee was the father to the young woman. That made her family. However, he didn't care. All he cared about was power. To pass up this chance to have 3 more powerful beings in his ranks was just too hard to pass up. Very well, the Reikage said. Kushina looked down. She didn't want to do this, however a part of her still wanted revenge. The battle will take place within a week, Kushina said. This way we can set up a barrier that will prevent the audience from getting hurt. That had brought a surprised look to his face. Kushina smiled. As we speak, lords and their ladies are making their way here to be witness to the fight. If either of you is to back off from the deal, the other half will be there to see the full power of a Kage fight. Kushina walked back to her desk and brought out some papers. Basically it would be like the Chunin exams, Kushina said as she pushed the papers to the Reikage. I need you to sing this form. Of course you have to read it first. That is if you can, you meathead. Yae looked over the form, which was written by both the staff of the Lord of the Land of Lighting and the staff of the Lord of the Land of Fire. Neither of the two forms were the same, meaning that they were real. He placed some chakra inside the seal that was at the bottom of the forms after signing his name. He then pushed it back to Kushina, who had done the same. Her hand hovered above the sign. If she did this and lost, she would lose her only connection that she had to Minato, the one other person that she would have given her life for. With a heavy heart, Kushina Uzumaki, the fifth Hokage, made the hardest choice that she had ever made. She placed some of her chakra into the seal. Both papers glowed and they vanished. It's done, Kushina said. In 7 days we will fight. Kushina looked at the Raikage and his guards. Know that if either of us goes back on our words, the seal will active, sending a signal into our hearts, killing us. Kushina said, you're welcome to stay in the village to train or whatever, but I would like it if you don't send any more of my shinobi to the hospital. With nothing more to say, Yae, his brother, and his niece left the office. When they were gone, Hiruzen came out. Kushina walked up to him and hugged him as she cried into his shoulders. Oh God, what have I done? Kushina asked. She was hoping that he wouldn't have taken the challenge. She even prayed that he wouldn't, but it seemed that he cared nothing for his brother, or the young teen. Naruto, please forgive me. Once again I could be a bastard and end the chapter here, but I won't. I hope I do justice by the fighting, seeing as how I had a hard time finding any moves for Yae. See ending notes for details on this and way I made Yujito B's daughter. Because of how important this event was, all the great lords had made to Konoha, where Kushina, and to the surprise of others, Yae had greeted them. Other guests had also made. These were going to be future clients of either of the two nations depending on where they live. Over the week, Kushina was hard at training, in a field where Minato had made to hide the development of both jutsus that had made him famous in the war. Kushina was working on something new, something that would make the Rasengan her own. She had no choice in the matter. She had to win this fight or die trying, and she couldn't live with herself if she lost her son. Kushina had asked Hiruzen to take over for her while she had trained. Hiruzen agreed, and had made Kakashi and Asuma, who would be living after the fight, to go and train as one of the 12 guardians, his advisors not trusting his two teammates. They had already caused more trouble than they were wroth in this matter. Somehow they paid enough people to get back in the council when the annual voting had taken place. It was something that changed when Kushina took office as Hokage. The civilian council was to change with each year, to prevent them from getting greedy or have them try something against her son. For the most part it had worked, and people had loved the idea of being on the council for a year. However, somehow this year had more headaches than it was wrath. People that have given Kushina and Hiruzen trouble in the past were back in office. This included Hiruzen's old teammates. The same teammates that had suggested Kushina place Naruto into the deal with a child form the Hyuga and Uchiha clans. Hiruzen for his part had liked the staff that she had picked out to help with the paperwork. While he had taken care of the important stuff that had to with the ninja force, the staff would take care of the things that had to do with the village. Hiruzen smiled. It was the same setup that Kushina's grandfather had done when he was leader of Whirlpool. Whether she knew it or not, she was following in her footsteps, and the people of Konoha loved her for it. Hiruzen watched as the young woman slept. His eyes softened as she heard her say, "Please forgive me, Naruto." Sometimes he hated the council for putting Kushina in the situation. Even he couldn't understand why they would do that. He knew that they hated her son for what he was, but why punish Kushina? Something wasn't right with this, and he had to do something about it. Someone was working in the shadows and he didn't like it one little bit. The Raikage wasn't happy that Kushina would only allow 10 non-shinobi people to be allowed into the village. He understood why. Kushina wouldn't risk an invasion. As people came from all over to watch the match that was being held as the fight of the decade, Kushina was getting ready for her fight. She had asked Kakashi to watch Naruto, pretty much asking him not to take the young boy to the fight. However, Naruto protested, saying that he wanted to see his mother fight. "It would be so cool to see you fight, Ma," Naruto said, hyped up and pumping his fist in the air. "You'll kick his ass so badly they will fell it in Kumo." Kushina looked at her son. "Where did you learn that word?" she asked in a kind voice. Naruto blinked, thinking back to where he heard that word. "From Ero-sensei." Kushina growled. Not only had Jiraiya started training him in chakra control, but he also taught him to curse. She was going to have some words with him. Wearing black pants and shirt, Kushina had placed her belt on, not bothering to put on her kunai or shuriken pouch on. She didn't need it. Instead, she put on the pouches that held her claws. She was halfway to mastering her fox style, and once she did, she would train Naruto to use it as well. Zipping up her jacket and placing her gloves on, Kushina looked at Kakashi. The young man nodded. He would not let anything happen to the young man. Place her boots on. She zipped up the sides to them. The jacket she had worn was like Minato, only it was shorter than his, allowing for more room to fight in. It was red in color with black flames on the back and at the helm. The Uzumaki spiral in the center of the flames. Kushina looked at her headband. She hadn't worn it since before she was pregnant. Shaking her head, she took a headband that had once belonged to her husband, her friend, her love, and her soul mate. Minato Namikaze. She turned it around and looked at what she had written there. "Minato, you are my soul mate. My everything. You give me strength where others have failed to do so. I love you so much. Use that love as you become Hokage. Love, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze." She had forgotten why she went back to her maiden name. However, she didn't care anymore. Only a handful of people has known that she was Minato's wife. Minato, I once gave you the strength to become Hokage. Please give me your strength that I need to protect our son, Kushina said in a soft prayer, as she tied the headband around her head. She was ready. It was times like this that Kushina wished that her sensei was back from her mission. She really needed some advice at this point in the game. She wasn't listening to what Hiruzen was saying as she glared at the Reikage. The man before her had dark tan skin and blonde hair. He was built more like a bodybuilder than anything she had ever seen, however that didn't fool her. It was often the ninja that didn't show their skills on the battlefield that was the most deadly of any. Kushina herself had a few secrets up her sleeve. Kick his ass, mom! Her 4-year-old son shouted through the crowd. Kushina glared at Jiraiya. The glare had promised him a lot of pain. You can do it, mom, believe it! That brought a smile to her face. Leave it to her son, to find the best way to make her smile. Just like his father. That's your weapon? The Reikage asked. Kushina glared at him. I can see that he would be quite powerful one day. Kushina was growling now. His name is Naruto, and unlike you and your father I treat him like the son that he is. Kushina was ready to kick his ass all over the place. He isn't a weapon, he will never be a weapon. Her fingernails had cut into her palms drawing blood. The Reikage was once again not listening to her. That's it, this bastard's dead. I don't care if it does start a war. Kushina thought. Shina, calm. I told you before anger cloud the mind. Kurama said. She looked to Naruto whose eyes were red. The whisker marks were a little denser than normal. Do not worry, I am not harming the kid. But I need you to stay calm. Remember, you might still have some of my chakra, but it's still a danger to you. Kushina nodded. That was how she was able to live after Kurama was pulled from her. He was able to leave a part of him within her just to keep her alive. Once again she turned back to look at the Reikage. It was time to beat this bastard back to where he came from. Drawing her weapons and locking them in place, she was ready, as some of you may understand. Hiruzen had shouted out to the crowd. This is a fight for honor that had come into question thanks to the village of the Cloud Ninja. The people from Konoha booed the Reikage. The Reikage was blinded to see that he had made a mistake in trying to have kidnapped the daughter of the head of the Hyuga clan. By invoking the gladiator challenge Kushina Uzumaki, the 5th Hokage has no choice but to battle Ei, the 4th Reikage. Kushina looked at her nails and then back at the Reikage. The rules are anything goes as long as there are no killing blows. Hiruzen said. After all, there was no reason for that. Ei looked at Kushina, shame that he had to beat that pretty little face in. The one that had been knocked out will lose the fight. Hiruzen raised his hand. Fighters ready? Begin! He had yelled out, slamming his hand on the bell. Ei wasted no time as was at Kushina's side in a matter of seconds, throwing a high-power combo of punches and kicks. Kushina was moving around like it was a dance to her, blocking them, and best she could. Just as she was about to get hit, she saw an opening, and slammed an open palm strike to his ribs, causing the big man to jump back. Just as the Reikage was about to go back to attacking her, Kushina brought up her hands. Kagebushin no Jutsu. With that, over 100 clones had appeared. Each one was grinning at the Reikage. Attack! Kushina ordered, and the clones started to attack the big man, throwing punches and kicked at him. For his part, the Reikage was doing his best to block and counter each attack like it was nothing. That was until Kushina had found a blind spot in his defense, throwing a specially made Senbon, which had allowed her to use the Haraishin to move above the Reikage. Rasengan! Kushina yelled out. Ei looked up and saw the young woman falling at a fast rate at him. The old man had moved out of the way just in time to avoid being hit by the spinning ball of chakra. Dust was sent into the air as Kushina and the Rasengan hit the ground. Kushina clones had moved out of the way long after that. If that is how you want to play it, Ei said, making several signs. Right on no Yoroi. As soon as that was said, Ei's body was covered in lighting. The clones looked at Kushina, who nodded. Each one was sent at Ei to find a weakness in his attack. However, they weren't as lucky as Ei had destroyed each one as they made their way to him. Bushin Baku! Kushina had yelled out, causing a heavy explosion as the clone had gone up in smoke as they had explored in the Reikage's face. It seemed to have worked, and when the smoke cleared, the older man had burn marks all over him. I'm not done with ye yet, old man, Kushina said as she started making hand signs. Die Enden! As soon as that was said, a wall of flames shot of her month heading towards Ei at an alarming rate. It didn't stop as he jumped out of the Y. Seeing that the attack wasn't doing anything, Kushina stopped and looked up. Bending down, Kushina then jumped up after him, her fists at her side. Ei saw this coming and set up a counterattack that had sent the young Hokage down to the ground hard on her back. Damn it, he's fast, Kushina thought. Kushina's eyes widened as she saw that Ei was heading her way, and she back-flipped to avoid the attack. Shit, so he decided to start using his hell thrust, has he? As Kushina looked closely, she could see that Ei was cloaked in his lighting chakra. However, what had caught Kushina's eyes the most was the fact that his hand had a concentrated amount chakra focus in his hand. I can't get hit by that or it's game over. Kagebushin no Jutsu. After making several more clones, they looked at her. Buy me some time, Kushina told one of them as they bought out their own weapons. The clones started to attack Ei with fast-paced strikes. Kushina once again watched, looking for any weakness in his style. Shit! Kushina yelled out as the blonde man destroyed the last of her clones and ran right at her. Hari Jaizu. Kushina's hair grew out, and then started to cover her body and had hardened. When she could feel the eye closing in, and close enough, she once again shouted out, Hari Jigaku! Kushina's hair went back to normal after the call, which sent some of her hair flying at the rakeage, piercing his skin in small wounds. Up in the stands, Jiraiya had watched her with surprising eyes. 3 of the moves that she had done were his, but he only had taught one person the moves. Minato, you sly fox, you taught her move then just the Rasengan and the Hiraishin, didn't you? Of course his question would not be answered for some time. However, the move that she had done wasn't powerful enough to slow EI down, and he was closing in fast. Damn it, I haven't been able to practice this move yet. Rasengan Spiral Spin Shield. Kushina started spin, caused member of the Hyuga clan to question just what she was doing. That is until they saw the Churka that started to follow her spinning. There's no way in hell that she knows the Haksha. Hisa, he said. His brother, who was sitting next to him, looked at him. Yes, however, if you look closely enough you can clearly see that it's only based on the heavenly spin move. The youngest of the twins said. With the chakra spinning around her, Ei couldn't stop his attack in time, and when his fist hit the spinning chakra shield it caused an explosion that had several people covering their eyes. Ei was sent flying back. When Kushina saw this she growled out and said, No you don't. Throwing her hand forward, Kushina released a single chakra chain at the rakeage. The end of the chain turned into a spear and went into the left shoulder of the rakeage. Get over her, bitch! Kushina tugged on the chain, sending the rakeage back at her. As he came close enough, Kushina called out double strike Rasengan. In both palms of her hand the ball of spinning chakra appeared. She ran at the incoming rakeage and slammed both her hands into him, once again causing an explosion. This had sent the rakeage flying once more, sending him into the wall. Kushina was panting hard. However, she had time for one more attack. It had to be her last attack or this was all over and she would lose her son. She wasn't going to allow that to happen, not today, not tomorrow, and not ever. Kagebushin no Jutsu. Again a large number of clones stood behind her. However, what had caught the eyes of everyone in the stands was that each one was holding a Rasengan. In the Hokage box, Hiruzen stood up. It's over, he said softly. Jiraiya stood next to him. That girl is just amazing, isn't she, sensei? Hiruzen nodded. Kushina had really come a long way from the child she once was, and while there was time she had questioned her own skills, everyone could clearly see that Kushina Uzumaki wasn't a force to be messed with. As the two had talked, Kushina clones had attacked the rakeage without mercy, just like he had done several years back in Whirlpool. Men, woman, child, and let's not forget the shinobi that were trying hard to protect the village. Each strike made it count. When the last clone hit, the rakeage fell to his knees. He was bleeding badly. As Kushina walked up to him, the man was barely able to move. Kushina stood at the rakeage. In her hand was a Rasengan that would finish this man off. How? The weakened rakeage had asked. How are you so strong? Kushina lowered her hand, the chakra attack disappearing. She looked into the fallen man's eyes. I'm strong not because I have been training, Kushina said. While my senseis trained me to become the greatest ninja that I wish to be, that is not the cause enough. Kushina looked up and saw that her 4-year-old son was looking at her. It's because I have things, people that I need to protect. She turned to look at Hiruzen. It's because of the people that I love, that are the cause of my strength. Kushina turned her back to the fallen rakeage. This fight is over, rakeage, Kushina said. Take your brother and niece home with you. In the stands, Killer Bee and his young daughter eyes widen. You want to be strong? Then you protect them with more than your life. However, the rakeage didn't see it that way. As he got up, he had grabbed a kunai from his pouch. With it in hand, he had ran at Kushina. This fight isn't over yet, he yelled at her. Mom, look out! Naruto had yelled out to her. Kushina had turned just in time to grab the rakeage's wrist. With a twist, she had snapped it, and then ran a hand with a Rasengan into his chest. Once again he was sent into the wall. Only this time he didn't get back up. He had clearly broken the one rule after Kushina had ended the match. By attacking her he had forfeited his life. Kushina looked down at him. He was still alive but just barely. Cloud, your rakeage is dying. He had broken the rules of engagement. Get out of here, he doesn't have much time to live. As people of the Cloud Village came down to get their fallen leader Killer Bee and the young girl walked up to him. What are you doing here? She asked them. I set you free from the deal, go take care of your brother. Killer Bee shook his head. A deal, Lady Hokage, we will follow it just like both you and bro had agreed. Bee looked at the girl next to him. This is Yujito, my daughter. The young blonde bowed to Kushina. The young redhead rubbed the back of her head. Killer Bee, you should go back to Cloud, I can tell you're not like the rest of them. Yujito looked at the woman before her. I saw you during the attack on Whirlpool, Kushina said. You were helping people rather than killing them. Besides, Konoha isn't too kind when it comes to hosts. Killer Bee nodded. Go back to Cloud, become their rakeage, teach them that hatred isn't the just cause. She patted the big man on the shoulder. You have a good heart, use it to change Cloud for the better. With that said, Kushina turned to Live. As the two watched her go, they saw a young blonde hair by about 4 years of age run up to her and hug her. Killer Bee turns to his daughter and smiled at her. She a good woman, come on brat, let's go. Yujito frowned at him, but as they turned to leave, Yujito was surprised that her father took her hand as they had walked away from mother and son. It was something that he haven't done in a long time. It seems that Kushina is becoming a bigger pain than we had thought. Someone said from the shadows. We might have to step things up if this continues. Fugaku could only nod. When she became Hokage there were plans made, however it will be another 4 years before we can have everything set up. Silence went through the meeting room. No one wanted to talk. So be it, Fugaku, you have 4 years, in that time if you do not attack then I will kill you. Fugaku Uchiha nodded his head before he bowed. As you wish, he said. Master Madara. To be continued. Chapter 8. Fugaku's Attack, the Uchiha Clan Declaration of War. A lot of things can change over the course of 4 years. Take the peace treaty, the Killer Bee, the 5th Raikage for example. As it turned out, Kumo was suffering from a plague that was attacking its people and they need medical attention. Kushina offered to send medical help right away. However, Bee stopped her, since Kumo and Konoha wasn't allies as of yet. A treaty was made that favored both villages. Kumo would get the medical need that they so badly needed and Konoha would get ninja that specialized in kenjutsu, for a few months each year. It would have been more, however Kumo still had enemies and they needed their ninjas. Shortly after the battle with Ei, Kushina had once again laid it into the council. She had beaten them one at a time for their choice in helping her. She didn't like the idea that having to give up her son as a barging chip was fair. That year the civilian council was disbanded and each one of them served time in Konoha prison, after Kushina had found them taking bribes. Several weeks after the fight, Tsunade and her team finally came home with a huge surprise for Kushina. Her long-thought dead cousin was now in Konoha, a place that he had hated for a long time. That was until he saw Kushina with a folder. She handed it to hand and upon reading it he gave her a hug. Will you be staying Nagato? She asked. I really need your help in training Naruto. She then explains what had happened to the young man. Nagato nodded. He owed it to Kushina for sending Tsunade and her team to help. Even if they didn't get to kill Hanzo, they still fought to kick his ass. That year, they gained allies and more ninja in their ranks. The following years nothing much had really happened. Her son, Naruto, had begun some serious training. So far it was going well, a little too well. With Nagato's help Naruto was well on his way to mastering his Rinnegan abilities. While he was doing well in his train his schoolwork had somehow taken a fall. No one could really explain why, though Kushina had a feeling that the teachers at the school weren't doing their job right. However, that wasn't what had the young woman worried. At first she had feared that Orochimaru had somehow come back to the village without her knowing it. This was because Kushina had been getting reports about some of her ninjas turning up dead, or attacked. At first the council had thought that it was an attack from Kumo. That wasn't the case, the attacks had happened at night, all at different times and days. It didn't make sense. Then there was the fact that her friend, Mikoto, had been keeping her distance from Kushina. That was beyond strange and Kushina had a feeling that Fugaku had something to do with it. A few days ago, Kushina had gotten a mysterious letter addressed to Kushina. All it said was beware of the enemy from within. The only sign that it had on it was a red and white fan. It came from an Uchiha clan member, and she didn't like it one bit. Something big was going to happen, something that would once again put Konoha in danger. Looking through some papers, Kushina noticed that Itachi name was brought up for the Anbu Black Ops team. It was requested by none other than Kakashi Hatake. As Kushina read on, she couldn't help but see that Itachi had been extremely doing well in his Chunin career. Kushina then moved to another report for the young man was well. The next one was from Tsunade, Itachi's sensei. She goes on to stating that while Itachi had shown some stress levels, Itachi would do wonders in the Anbu Black Ops. Kushina then looked out all mission records from when Itachi was with his team before they had disbanded. Just remembering that team had brought a smile to her face. Taking a stamp, she hit the papers with a red approve. He earned it, she said to herself. Konoha Ninja Academy. Few days later. No way Naruto is better than Sasuke, Hinata Hyuga said. This had caused some of the girls to look at her. Ino Yamanaka was standing next to her looking at Sakura, who was her friend, sometimes. Besides, he's been training ever since he was 4. The blonde yelled at the pink-haired girl. Off to the side, said boy was sitting down with his back to the wall looking at the girls as they fought over who was better. At least the fangirls had kept the others away. I'm started to understand why Itachi goes and hides at times like this, Sasuke said as he sat down next to Naruto. Yeah, girls are really scary at times, Shikamaru said. It's still too troublesome though. Naruto nodded. We'll have to step in if it gets too much out of hand, Shino said. Again, Chuji said as he had passed his bags of chips around. It's been like this for a while, ever since the class has started their ninjutsu training in the school. Naruto's mother had made sure that the class was a little harder at this point. Last year's class had the highest marks in the history of Konoha Ninja Force with a recorded high 6 teams graduating. Kushina couldn't have been any happier. Hey Sasuke, I hear that Itachi Nei-chan is going into Anbu, Naruto said as he looked at Sasuke. Sasuke looked at Naruto and rolled his eyes. Wish you would stop calling him that. Itachi, Sasuke and Naruto became close friends over the years. almost to the point of becoming brothers. Yeah, that shocked the hell out of bother mother and myself. Sasuke looked around making sure that no one could hear what he was saying. Keep quiet about this, okay? They wear a mask for a reason. Sasuke said to his friends. I heard father telling Itachi that if he passes his test that he would become the youngest person in the Black Ops. Naruto nodded his head. That's cool. Do you know what mask he'll wear? Sasuke shook his head. No, and if I did I couldn't tell you. Sasuke said. However, there's something going on. Father wanted Itachi in the Black Ops for some reason. That got Naruto thinking. Fugaku Uchiha was a strange man. He kept mostly to himself. Sometimes Naruto could hear him talking to someone when Naruto and the rest of the gang stayed overnight. Something was going on, and when Sasuke had asked his brother about it, Itachi would just smile and poke him in the head. Nothing more could be said as the bell for the next class had ranged. Everyone in the classroom turned as the next teacher came into the classroom to start the next lesson. Naruto sighed as he saw Asuma walk in smoking like he always did. However, it didn't last long as Asuma tripped over a thin wire which triggered a bucket full of cold water on the poor Chunin. Uzumaki! The youngest son of the former third Hokage yelled out. This once again caused a chase around the room. Asuma hated this job. From now on, every Chunin had to teach at least one class for a year as part of their new rank. Every year for the last 2 years Naruto had pranked everyone one of them, just to keep them on their toes. Mom told you that you should quit smoking in the classroom, sensei. The blonde host yelled out as he dodged another kunai. The class had started laughing at the two. Asuma could only hope that his application to join the 12 Guardians came back soon. He wanted out of this classroom, and away from this blonde. Several weeks later, for once things have quieted down for Kushina to finally relax. She loved her son dearly, but the way he kept getting into trouble were giving her a headache. She watched him as he did a few katas in the backyard. Kushina wanted Naruto to be a well-rounded fighter. Every clan had one specialty, be it jutsus, taijutsu, genjutsu, or kenjutsu. The Uzumaki clan had once focused on all forms. This was what also made them the deadliest of warriors. Stop overreaching your punches. Kushina had yelled out. When Naruto was training he was more like her at that age. Kushina never really paid much attention to the details of her workout. This was what led her to get beaten up sometimes in Whirlpool. She would get overconfident. This pretty much led her to be beaten in her matches. It also didn't help that she was a little bit chubby. Naruto was more like her than she wanted. Truth be told, she wanted him to be more like Minato, calm and collected when facing any opponent in a fight. However, because Minato had to go off and die, she had to raise Naruto up herself, cause him to act more like her. Kushina had guessed that Naruto's love for pranks came from Kurama. The fox had a playful nature when he was inside her, and so it was only by chance that Naruto would be the same way. Naruto had taken to the kitsune style like a fish to water. He even added 3 blades to his boots that he had started wearing in practices. Kushina was going to try and get a switch into place when he gets older, for now Naruto had to change shoes outside of practice and training. However, he would not take the shoes to school with him. Naruto also liked the way that the claws would work for him. With his speed, it wasn't hard for him to get blocked if his opponent didn't want to get hurt nor had a weapon at hand. The two would also practice with wooded claws to help in Naruto's spars. Naruto's second favorite weapon was the bow's staff. Kushina would help Naruto with this weapon with a wooden practice sword. All in all, Kushina had liked the way things had turned out in Naruto's training. With his weights off, Naruto was just as fast as Guy was without them. Just as Kushina was about to call an end to the practice, a ninja with a cat-like mask landed next to the red-haired Hokage. Ma'am, I'm sorry to bother you, however there's been a call for an emergency meeting, she said. Kushina nodded. She turned around after telling the Umbu that she was on her way to the tower. Nico, as some have called her, watched over Naruto's training. She could help the young man, but she could make sure that he did not hurt himself as he trained. After all, Naruto couldn't really hurt himself. However, he had a bad habit of stopping during training to go off and prank someone. Several hours earlier. Shursui, you wanted to see me? Itachi asked as he stood next to his friend and teammate. The young man turned to Itachi. Yeah, I wanted to ask you if you reported Uncle's plan to the Hokage yet. Itachi blinked. Itachi was torn between family and duty. After becoming a member in Umbu, Itachi's father had pulled the young man to the side and asked him a simple question. Are you in or out? Itachi knew what he had meant. Fugaku Uchiha as well as several other clans had planned a coup d'etat. It wasn't just him or the other clans, but the remaining root members as well. They had all wanted Kushina and her son dead. No, I haven't even given my answer to father yet either, Itachi told his older cousin. Shursui looked down. Good, he said before he had attacked Itachi without warning, stabbing him in the chest and stomach. Shursui looked down at the blooded form of his cousin, feeling something in his eyes. Why? Itachi asked. Shursui looked at him. Simple really, power. Shursui knelt down next to Itachi, his eyes bleeding. By killing you, I would be reaching the next stage of the Sharingan. Itachi watched as his cousin's eyes started changing. But why? We're friends, teammates, Itachi yelled out as he started coughing up blood. I need you out of the way. A new voice said. You're too much of a risk, so is that mother of yours. Itachi looked up, only to see his father walking up to him. Surprised? You should be. Fugaku kicked his son in the ribs, sending the young man back down to the ground. Kushina Uzumaki was supposed to die that night 10 years ago. However, someone tipped off that blasted 4th, and now there's a woman leading the village, Fugaku said, once again kicking his son. Itachi weakly looked up at his father. You have grown soft over the years, Itachi, just like the rest of this damn village. Fugaku turned to Shursui. Do it, make sure you plant that headband. Fugaku took one last look at Itachi. I loved you once, back before you became soft. Don't worry about your little brother. I'll make sure he grows into the man he should be. The last thing Itachi saw before Shursui picked him up was the red eyes of his best friend. The Manjiki Sharingan looked right back at him. Goodbye, Itachi, maybe in other life you would have killed me instead. With those words, Shursui had dropped Itachi off of the cliff that they were on. Shursui watched as Itachi had broken through the trees, before he couldn't see his body anymore. Fugaku turned to a man in an orange mask. It's done, the head of the Uchiha clan said. You are not, though. I want no loose ends this time, Fugaku. If you want your plan to work, you have to kill your wife. Fugaku bowed his head. Yes, Master Madara. Is it just me, or do I just keep coming up with new stuff? Anyways, read on. There's more to this chapter than you think, and I kind of like this story to have longer chapters. Warning, near the end of Kushina's fight there will be a somewhat graphic detail of blood. Konoha General later that day. You did what? Kushina yell could be heard throughout the hospital. Standing before her was Inochi Yamanaka. I was asked by Itachi just before he lost conscious. He said, I was waiting for you to get here. Kushina crossed her arms. How the hell is he even still alive? Tsunade sighed and handed her a file. He was barely alive. I guess it was a good idea that the training for medics and teams had passed, huh? Kushina smiled at her sensei. How much longer before we find out what happened? Inochi sighed. I'm afraid it's more complicated than that. He sat down and pulled out a file. What I got from Itachi's mind. He paused for a second before looking up. Behind Kushina and everyone else, standing in the doorway was a bloody Mikoto and Sasuke, who looked like he had gotten beaten up. Kushina ran to her friend and son. Michan, what happened? Mikoto didn't say anything until her son was taken. Just before she collapsed, she was catched by her best friend. Fugaku, he has to be stopped, she said as she was lowered down to the ground. He's planning a coup d'etat, right now, as she lost conscious before she could finish. However, the message got across. What the hell is wrong with the damn village? Kushina asked. Then she started to order several people that had gathered around her. If Fugaku wants a war, he got one. Kushina said to her group. Over the last few years many people have learned that while she is still a mother, Kushina Uzumaki is also a highly trained and highly powerful shinobi. Tonight, the Uchiha clan goes down. She turned to her sensei. She'll live, but I'm afraid she may never walk again. Kushina nodded. That was going to be the hardest thing for the woman. Take care of her, sensei. If anyone can help her walk again after coming all the way here carrying her son, it's you. Tsunade smiled at Kushina. Damn right I am. Now get going, you have a job to do. Kushina nodded and left the room. While they had taken care of Mikoto, Sasuke was taken to other room. Unknown to any of them was that a pale-faced man had entered the room. He looked down at the broken form of Sasuke and smiled. One day, you will come to me for more power, he said. When the time comes, I will give it to you. With that said, he once again snuck out the room and the village, never looking back. What's your orders, ma'am? Kakashi asked. Kushina and a large group were standing outside of the closed gates of the Uchiha compound. Fugaku is mine, Kushina said as she walked up to the gate. She placed a tag on them and turned around. Leave only the civilians, and the children. Kushina put on her claws and surprised too many. Minato's leaf ninja headband. If they stand in your way you are to knock them out. Kushina ordered. Anyone that is a ninja is to be either captured or killed. As soon as she said that, with her back turned to her men, the gates to the Uchiha clan compound was blown clean off their hinges. Attack! It was at that moment that all hell had broken out. Many of Kushina's men had hated the Uchiha clan for a long time. It wasn't because that they could copy jutsus just by looking at them, but many had hated the clan because no one from the Uchiha clan was around to help stop the attack when Kyuubi was released. To this, many of the people that looked up to Kushina and started spending rumors that the Uchiha clan had caused the attack on the village, which in turn caused the death of the 4 Hokage. You son of a bitch, Kushina thought. Not only do you try to kill your own son, but your wife as well. Of course, it wasn't certain if Sasuke was attacked by his father or by Naruto. The two of them had liked to spar a lot, and had often placed Sasuke in the hospital. If it got out of hand, Kushina made her way to the main house. This is where Fugaku would be, waiting for Kushina to show. It was probably true, seeing as how Kushina didn't run into anyone. Not bothering to open the door, Kushina slashed it wide out with her claws. And here I thought salesmen were pushy, Fugaku said. I have to admit, I thought that you would have waged war with IWA. Kushina glared at the man that had tried to kill his own wife. You've been a thorn in my side for a long time, Uzumaki. Time I finish the job that my master have started. Kushina watched as the eyes of the man she was facing changed to that of the Manjiki Sharingan. What the hell? Kushina asked as she dodged the attack that the head had thrown at her. She was at a complete loss as how to fight him like this. Look me in the eyes, Uzumaki, and face or death. Kushina throw a smoke bomb into the middle of the house. Not a chance, asshead. Kushina said. Do you really think that this smoke screen is going to work for you? Fugaku asked. Yes, I do. Kushina was behind Fugaku before he knew what had happened and was kicked so hard that he had gone those several rooms and right out of the house. Kushina walked out into the streets. Why the hell did you betray the village, Uchiha? Kushina asked. Her only answer was a fast punch and kick combo thrown her way. Kushina blocked or dodged most of the kicks that was thrown at her. Because this village has grown weak. He started to say, making treaties with past enemies, and then giving them aid? Kushina was growling. Letting a monster like the Kyuubi run around free when he should be locked up to be trained as a weapon. Fugaku looked at Kushina. He had to make her see red, which was the only way to kill her. Kushina's one weakness was her temper. To his glee, it was working. When Kushina had thrown a punch she missed, Fugaku grabbed her wrist and then kicked her in the face. Before he had let go, he had kicked her again. Kushina wiped the blood from her mouth. With you out of the way, Konoha well belonged to the Uchiha clan, once and for all. Spinning around, Fugaku had once again kicked Kushina in the face. Kushina surprised the clan head by catching his foot. Think again, asshole. With a quick elbow smash to the back of Fugaku's knee, she had broken it. Did you really think that it was going to be easy to defect me? Kushina swung around and had slashed Fugaku across the face, leaving 3 angry and bloody slash marks. I'm shocked at you, Fugaku. You were once a loyal ninja of this village. What happened? Kushina asked. Before she got an answer, she had backhanded him in the face, causing blood to fly. I still owe you for that comment you made about me 8 years ago. Fugaku growled. Then he tried launching black flames at her. Amaterasu. Fugaku said. Touch it and there wouldn't be anything left of you to bury. Kushina just grinned at him. You think so, huh? She said. I guess that you need to learn what a true fire jutsu is. Around her claws blue flames had started to appear. You see, Fugaku, I was once the host of the Great Kyuubi myself. You're right, I should have died that day 8 years ago. However, thanks to Kurama, I have lived to see not only my dream but also to hold my son. The flames had started to glow brighter. When Kushina looked up, her eyes had locked with Fugaku, who had hoped to have her trapped in his tsukuyumi. However, it didn't work. What? He asked, not believing that his genjutsu attack wasn't working. Why isn't it working? Kushina smiled at him. Kushina's eyes had shifted into slits much like a cat eyes, or to be more accurate, fox-like eyes. Thanks to whoever had attacked me, Kurama was forced to not only embed me with his chakra but a part of his soul as well. Kushina told him. Because Naruto was already born, he doesn't have the same abilities that I have. I haven't worked this out much, I only got one shot at this, I have to make it count. Kushina thought. Spiritual art, fox fire claws. Kushina then jumped into the air and slashed at Fugaku, not only to catch him by surprise by what she had done but also by the sheer power of her attack. Fugaku looked down to see 3 very deep claw marks in his chest. He was sure that he had seen his heart in one of the gashes that now covered his chest. Do you have any last words before I kill you for treason? Kushina asked. Fugaku fell to his knees, blood pouring out of his wounds. You will never be able to stop my master. Kushina frowned at him. Oh, you know very well who he is. After all, he attacked you 9 years ago. Kushina started growling. We'll see. Kushina said as she lifted up her hand. Foxfire burst. The blur flames had started by the time Fugaku had been burning slowly for a minute, then suddenly he had burst into flames. He soon exploded. Each piece of him was still burning as the separated from his now blackened skeleton. I don't like traitors in my village, Kushina said as the bones fell to the ground. The battle was over. Most of the Uchiha clan that had rebelled against Konoha had surrendered when they had saw Fugaku get destroyed by Kushina. Soon the civilians of the clan came out of their house and looked around. The death toll was high, and among the dead were the remains of the root members. Kushina looked around to see if any of her ninjas were among the dead. Ma'am, Kakashi said as he walked over to Kushina. I'm sorry, but Shursui had gotten away. Kushina looked at him. He attacked Anko when she had tried to stop him. Kushina didn't like the feeling in her gut. She was taken to the hospital. Kushina nodded. There's nothing else to report though. It was a long day and Kushina just wanted to go home, hug her son and go to bed. What is it with this village and people turning into traitors? Kushina thought as she had gotten back to her office. She looked at her desk and sighed. The paperwork would have to wait for now. She had to read reports for now, and hopefully there were reports from Mikoto to see if she had made it though her surgery okay. Kushina didn't like to think that her friend won't be able to walk again after she had placed herself between her attacker and her youngest son. Itachi was other story altogether. The young man was badly wounded and for now he was in a small coma. Tsunade would do all that she can to help him as well, but with the wounded coming into the hospital after attacking the Uchiha clan she would have to wait. Maybe not, I can focus on my training as a medic as well. Kushina thought, then she frowned at all the paperwork. Kushina gowned at the amount, and banged her head on her desk. Why do I have this feeling that things are just going to get worse from here on out? She had asked herself. You have failed me yet again, Madara. A man standing in the shadows had said, looking at the man who was called Madara, as he had knelt down and with his head bowed. I am going tired or all this bullshit. Madara looked up. Master, I'm sorry, I just need more time to put together a team, then we can start gathering the Jinchuriki, like you wanted? The voice was quiet for some time now. Very well, I will allow you to gather a team, but know this, Madara, you fail me again and I will take away the life I have given you. With that said, the room only grew darker. Shursui, you will be my first member, Madara said as he looked back. Standing behind him was Shursui Uchiha. As you wish, Master Madara, he said, his eyes glowing red as he backed out into the shadows. Madara didn't look happy. His plans have all failed. Sure, he may have had backup plans, but will they too fail as well? Damn you, Kushina Uzumaki, he thought. Next time I will kill you. To be continued. 12 years ago, a legendary nine-tails fox suddenly and without warning attacked Konoha, the village hidden in the leaves. The ninja of this village had fought the fox unknown to them that it was being controlled by a masked man that had attacked not only the village, but a young woman as well. Seeing no other course to take, a young man that was known as the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, had knocked out his beloved wife, and had sealed the fox inside his son. Later the young wife of the fourth Hokage became the fifth Hokage, and over time defended not only her son, but also the village as well. Now her son has grown and will embrace his own legend. This is the story of Naruto Uzumaki. A sudden slap to his back woke him up from his writing. Still dreaming, huh, loser? Kiba Inuzuka asked as he grinned at Naruto. As the blonde put away his writing, he glared at Kiba. It's better than being afraid of water, flea bag. The blonde shouted back. I mean really, Akamaru, cleaner than you are. Kiba glared at the blonde and was about to punch his face in when he was stopped by another blonde. Not now, you two, she said. We have a test to take, remember? Naruto nodded at Ino. She right, dog breath. So go sit somewhere. Kiba growled at the blonde and went to his seat. Ino turned to Naruto and placed her hands on her hips. What? Naruto asked. Quite picking on Kiba, Naru, she said. She sat down next to her friend and took his notebook. Hey! Ino glared at him, then went back to reading. You should change the main character's name, Naruto, Ino said. Maybe change it to Ranma or something. Naruto gave her a look. Or not. I'm just trying to help, Ino said as she gave him back his notebook. Thanks, but I'm not planning to publish this, Naruto said as he had put it away. Why not? Naruto, you have a good talent for writing, and your drawings are amazing. Naruto smiled at her, then turned away. I have my reasons, was all he said before Irika had walked into the room. Another wild night with Ayam? Naruto called out, making the class laugh. Irika blushed a little. Shut up or you're not invited to the wedding, he said. This caused Naruto and the class to blink. It's about damn time, sensei. This caused the class to look at who said that. Hinata was hiding her face inside her jacket. Irika sighed. Now, as you all know, today we will be doing the Genin selection exams, Irika said. For the next few days you will be taking part in a series of tests, Irika said. For the first test it's a written exam. The class gowned. Stuff it and get your pencils out. For the next few hours the tests were given. The written tests were a series of the basics. Math, read, everything that a normal school would have taught. Naruto sat back after he had finished the last of the tests. He looked up at the clock. The day was almost over. He did have time, so going over the booklet again, Naruto had found a few mistakes. After changing them he got up, and to Irika's shock was the second to last when turning in his work. Good work, class, we're all done for the day, Irika said. Test grades will be given back to you tomorrow. Everyone got up and bowed to Irika as he had left the room. Gathering his things, Naruto looked around the room looking for Sasuke. Oi, duckbud, Naruto called out. What the hell do you want, Uzumaki? Naruto growled. Ever since the Uchiha uprising and Fugaku's death, Sasuke had started to hate Naruto and his mother. I was going to ask if you would like a spar, but you know what? Forget it. Naruto turned around and left. It was always like this. Naruto would try to patch up their lost friendship, but Sasuke would say something that would change his mind. Not my fault that his clan was a bunch of traitors, Naruto muttered to himself as he left the school grounds. Naruto stopped in his tracks. Not all of them were traitors though. Naruto knew where he wanted to go. Making a sharp turn, Naruto went to the one place that he wasn't really welcome but was never hurt or thrown out. I'm coming already, hold your damn horses, a voice had yelled out. When the door opened, Naruto could only blink at who it was. I think you should put more cloths on, sis, Naruto said as he turned away. Anko blinked and looked down. She gave the young man a grin. So, what do you want, kid? Anko asked. Naruto turned to look at her and sighed. Is Itachi home yet? I need a sparring partner. Anko shook her head. Sorry, kiddo, his mission was a little longer this time around. Naruto muttered something that caused Anko to look at him. However, I could use the exercise. Naruto glared at her. No, you're under orders to rest until the baby is born, Naruto said as he crossed his arms. If anything happened to you or the baby, Itachi would have my head. Naruto placed his hand on Anko's swollen stomach and closed his eyes. He could feel the baby's chakra. He could also tell that the baby was a do you want to know what the sex is yet? Naruto asked. Nope, and I like to keep it that way, Anko said as she crossed her arms. Being cooped up in the house was bad enough. She didn't need her adopted little brother hovering over her like a mother hen. Anyways, why not ask that blonde-haired friend of yours? Anko asked. You mean Ino? Naruto asked with a little blush. Anko smiled. I think someone has a crush. Naruto stuck his tongue out at her. It's not like that, she's my friend. Anko wanted to laugh. Sure kid, sure. Anyways, you're losing daylight, so get going, Anko said, and she walked back into her and Itachi's home. And tell sensei that I said hi. Naruto nodded as he left the house and thought about the two. Anko had stayed near Itachi's side when he was in a coma. Anko would talk about her job in the TI department and stuff like that, and she also talked about her feelings for him as well. When Itachi woke up and had placed a hand on her chin, and that was the start of their relationship. 2 years ago they had married and were now starting a family. As Naruto was walking, he kept thinking about what he wanted to do. Naruto at first wanted to become a Hokage sometime in the future. He had dreamt of being the best. However, as Naruto looked around, he could see the smiling faces of the villagers. From what he could understand, since she became Hokage, Konoha has thrived under Kushina's leadership. That still doesn't stop people from turning traitor. Naruto muttered to himself. A few days ago Naruto had captured Mizuki, one of Naruto's teachers. What the traitor had said had Kushina in an uproar. I only wish that Master Orochimaru had finished the job and killed the little demon. Naruto was so caught up in his thoughts that he didn't know that he had walked into a barren training field. I wonder. Naruto knelt down and placed both his hands on the ground and closed his eyes. Feel the throw of life in your surroundings and concentrate. That was what one of his senseis has told him. No sooner as he had done that the barren field had started to grow grass. Ma'am. Kushina looked up. She hated paperwork as much as she hated the lovable idiot of a husband. Okay, so she didn't hate him, but she would kill him if was still alive. The genin from Suna are here. Kushina blinked at that. She didn't expect them to be here so soon. Send them in Shizen and then go ahead and take the rest of the day off. Shizen smiled and left to get the 3 genin. Kushina put aside the paperwork. Why the hell did she have to do those again? As she was thinking this, 3 teens had walked in. The first one was the same age as her son. Like her, he had red hair, green eyes and a kanji on the left side of his forehead for love. Next to him was either a cat with makeup or the kid just got out of bed and put the make on. The next person was probably the eldest from what Kushina understood. She had blonde hair tied up into 4 ponytails. Okay, I'm going to get straight to the point, Kushina said in her Hokage mode. Over the last few years my spies have been keeping an eye on Suna. The 3 from Suna didn't even flinch. The idea behind the exchange program is to help other nations with problems of getting missions. The young girl raised her eyebrows. Half the money that you make here will be going to Suna. The kid in the makeup just looked at her. That doesn't sound fair at all. The only missions Roth that would be C-ranked and above. Kushina nodded. Yes, that's why the 3 of you will be split up. That way you'll be making more money to help Suna. The kid with red hair looked at her. Kushina could tell something was wrong with him. Why are you helping us? He asked. Kushina didn't like the way that he had talked. Konoha had made big mistakes in the past when it came to helping our allies. Kushina said, I want to try this new program, and in all honesty Suna is the first village we will be trying this with. Kushina said, that seems fair, but wouldn't Konoha suffer from the loss of funds? Kushina smiled at the young woman. Then the red-haired Hokage shook her head. It's not as big of a problem as you may think, she said. It was the truth too. Konoha was making so much more money now that anyone had thought possible from one village. The details of the teams that you will be on will take place in a few days, Kushina said, handing them a few sheets of paper. For now, fill these out. You will still be allowed to wear your Suna headbands though. The 3 had nodded at this. They were willing to do anything to help their village. However, the girl was worried about her brother. That makes about as much sense as Ino stuffing her bra, Kiba said as he looked at Naruto. The blonde gave Kiba a look. How would you know that Ino stuffs her bra? The blonde asked. Kiba smiled. She has a bad habit of leaving her window open. Kiba said. Akamaru barked something and then jumped into Naruto's arms. Kiba, my room is on the 2nd floor. No one is able to see it from the street. Kiba heard from behind him. That was when Kiba felt the most potent killer intent that he could ever feel. The second would have to be from his mother and sister. Ah crap, please tell me she's not behind me, Kiba said. Naruto gave him a sorry man, you're on your own look and ran away. 5 seconds later the sound of someone beating on another could be heard from the hallways. Iruka had walked in when the noise had quieted down. I do not want to know, he said as he saw Kiba had gotten beaten with an inch of his life. Kiba, go see Tsunade and get your butt back here or you fail. So he does have it? Kushina asked as she looked over a file. Has Jiraiya reported in? Kakashi just shook his head. Not yet, ma'am. That was when he felt it. Oh shit, Jiraiya, you better get here soon. Kushina's hair was flying around looking like she had 9 tails. Jiraiya, you pervert! She yelled and then punched the ground where she knew Jiraiya was laying down looking up her skirt. Kakashi looked away as he heard the sound of flesh meeting flesh and the sound of his favorite author getting the snot beaten out of him. A few seconds later Jiraiya, Tsunade and Kakashi was in a meeting discussing about the young red-haired boy. So he has Shikaka, does he? Tsunade asked. Kushina and Jiraiya nodded. According to this pervert's report, it's also unstable. Jiraiya gave her a hurt look. I think it might be the seal. According to my spies in Suna, it was an old woman named Chio that did. Are you okay, Kushina? The old pervert asked. Kushina had nearly fallen out of her chair laughing when she had heard the name. Ha! No wonder the ceiling is so fucked up. Kushina was holding her sides as she was laughing, confusing everyone in the room. Chio couldn't make a good seal if it came up and bit her in the ass. After a few seconds Kushina was able to control herself and look at everyone. Jiraiya, I need to see that young man as soon as possible, please call him in. She then turned to Kakashi. Kakashi, I need you to keep his sibling busy, I'm sure that you can do that? The silver-haired Jounin nodded his head. Good, now everyone but Tsunade get out, I need to finish some paperwork. As Kakashi and Jiraiya left, Kushina was seeing red. Use the door next time. The young woman yelled out. Tsunade, I know how much you like working at the hospital, but I need you to take on a team again. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. Several files was pushed her way. I want you to train a medical team again. Tsunade picked up the files and read them as Kushina started reading over some reports and signing whatever needed to be signed. I see, you have 3 promising students here, but how will I be able to train them when they are out in the field? Kushina didn't look up. I only want you to train them when they are not working with their teams. Kushina said as she took off her reading glasses. The most promising is Sakura Haruno, Kushina said as she pulled out Sakura's file. From what we know, she comes from a civilian background, however a blood test shows that she also has Uzumaki DNA. Tsunade raised an eyebrow at that. I know it's so low that she nowhere near related though. Anyways, during a test she had proven to have the best in overall chakra control. Tsunade read over Sakura's file again. Her charts were off the scale in chakra control and her reserves high enough that she could train in her style. You would only get 2 students though. Hinata had proven to be better when it came to herbs ointment. Much Kushina didn't say any more. Hinata's mother had passed away a few years ago. I see. Tsunade said. Okay, I'll take them on as apprentices, but only after their team training. Kushina smiled at her sensei. Okay, and thanks sensei, now get out of here so I can finish this damn thing. Kushina said, giving the paperwork a look that could kill. Okay, listen up. Everyone turned to Irika. This part of the test is going to be a tournament-like setting. Everyone looked at him. When I call your name you can pick anyone that you wish to fight. Everyone grinned at that. It's winner takes all, so if you win, you can pick someone else. The longer that you stay in the fight the higher your grade will be. Almost everyone was looking at 2 people. Sakura and the Sasuke fan club was looking at the young Uchiha, all the while the other half of the class was looking at Naruto Uzumaki, the son of the 5th Hokage. Both sides were wondering which 2 of the young men were the most powerful. Irika looked at the clipboard and called out the first name. After a while of this, Kiba was finally up. After winning his match though, he gave a grin to Naruto. Uzumaki, get your ass up here. Kiba shouted out. Irika sighed, this was going to be a long day. Naruto stood up and Ino took his hand. Go easy on him, she said. Remember, he has not been though the training that you had. Kiba was looking at something like it was his watch. Come on, you can leave your girlfriend for a few minutes. Kiba whined. Naruto gave him a look. Can it dog breath, and for the record, she my friend. Naruto jumped up and onto the platform and took the stance of the fox style. Kiba took the stance of his family style. They almost look the same, Sakura said. Ino turned to look at her friend. Somewhat, the fox style realized more on speed than anything else. It's still a new style and rumor has it that it had beaten Orochimaru's own snake style. Everyone looked at Ino. It wasn't a rumor, Ino had heard her father talking about Kushina's fox style, and how it had not only beaten Orochimaru, but also how Kushina pretty much handed Fugaku his ass. Kiba Inuzuka vs Naruto Uzumaki. Taijutsu only, gentlemen, Irika said as he looked at the 2. Ready? Fight. With that, Irika jumped out of the way just as Kiba ran at Naruto. Kiba pulled his fist back, but before he could throw it, Naruto ducked down and slid in between Kiba's legs, and after getting up grabbed the dog boy's fist with a hook of his arm and body slammed the young man down. Naruto then pinned Kiba to the floor by grabbing his arm and locking it in place behind his back. Give up? The blonde asked. Damn you, Naruto. Kiba yelled as he hit the ground. Winner, Naruto Uzumaki. Irika said. Sensei, would be possible if I wait a little bit? Naruto said. I want everyone to get a chance at a good score. There was that grin again. Irika nodded in understanding. Naruto was not only trained by Kushina, but by Umbu, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and by God only knows. Naruto was well balanced in all fields. By fighting in this mock tournament, Naruto was going to end up beating everyone in class. Fine, but you have to call up 2 people, Irika said. Naruto nodded. Sakura Haruno and Ino Yamanaka. The 2 gave him a look. While the 2 were friends, they had a rivalry to see which fan club was better. The Uzumaki fan club was not only a fan club for Naruto but also for his mother and Nagato Uzumaki as well. Sakura was head of the Sasuke fan club. The two got up and made their way to the platform. When they were told to go they went. Ino won when she backhanded Sakura across the face, and then put her knee in the pink hair girl's stomach. That what makes the two fan clubs different, Ino whispered into Sakura's ear. The Uzumaki fan club trains their mind and bodies while the Sasuke fan club works on rumors. She then let her friend fall to the ground. That's how most of the new matches went. Ino would call a member from the Sasuke fan club and make quick work of them. When there was no one left of that club she would call members of the Uzumaki fan club. That's where Irika saw the real skills. The Uzumaki fan club had lasted the longest in the fights. Not only that but they had shown a level of skills that shouldn't have been seen in students. Ino's winning streak had ended when she went up against Hinata. Hinata lost 2 rounds later to Shino, whose family had only once trained with their bugs, since he had met Naruto, though he had started train in taijutsu as well. Sadly though, when Shino had called Shikamaru, though Shino lost to him. Shikamaru though only stayed in long enough to rake in enough point that he would graduate. This allowed Kiba to get other should, and he only then lost to Sasuke. Sasuke was staring at the only other member left. Naruto glared at Sasuke, Sasuke glared at Naruto. Get up here, son of a murderer. That was when the class had heard a growl. What did you say? Naruto yelled. Sasuke glared back at Naruto. You heard me, Naruto had it. Sasuke was once his friend, but after his mother had gone and saved the village from the Uchiha clan, Sasuke had changed. Your mother killed my father. You know this and everyone else knows this. Naruto started growling some more. Your father was going to start a war in Konoha. Naruto yelled back. You and all but 20 members of your family were nothing but traitors. Naruto yelled. Sasuke didn't hear any more as he ran at Naruto. Irika watched on in horror as the Hokage's son and Sasuke went at it. He knew he had to stop them, but how? Naruto and Sasuke were at a level of skills all their own. Irika signaled from the Umbu guard that had been watching Naruto after all these years. When they came down they told him what had been said and the Umbu ran into the fight to stop it. However, they didn't reach in time as Naruto kicked Sasuke so hard that he went flying off the platform and landed hard on his back. Naruto landed after him. His fist was raised. However, what surprised everyone was that 3 blades had popped out of the gloves that he was wearing. Sasuke looked at Naruto and had noticed that his eyes were red and slanted like a cat's. His birthmarks had darkened as well. Naruto, Ino yelled, grabbing his arm before he could do something he would regret later. Naruto was breathing hard. He took one last look at Sasuke, who had looked back at him with more hatred. Naruto got off of him and left to join the others. Damn things still need work, Naruto said as he took off his jacket and gloves. A device of some kind was strapped to his arm. It held his blades in place. Ino sat next to him and rubbed his back. It's not true, you know, Ino said. Your mother did what she had to protect not only you but the village. Naruto looked at her. She did what she believed what was right. I need someone to keep an eye on him then, Kushina said as she read the report. Naruto doesn't understand the power that he holds, Nagato, Kushina's cousin, said. The Rinnegan could easily control him if he's not careful. Kushina looked up at him. That's why I'm appointing you as his Jounin instructor, Kushina said. There's only 2 more days before they graduate, and I need to make sure that the graduation test this year is ready. Nagato, his wife Konan and Yahiko all nodded. I will do my best, cousin. As the 3 left, Kushina read the report in front of her. Unknown to her son, Naruto had released some killer intent which had caused Irika to freeze up. She didn't know if she should be angry with her son, or proud of him for protecting her honor as Hokage. She then read over Sasuke's file. She could feel a headache coming on. I hope the little bastard isn't turning traitor, Kushina said. That's the last thing we need right now, another Uchiha traitor. Kushina sighed. She wished that things could have gone differently, but they didn't. Mikoto was still in her coma and Itachi was out looking for Shursui. Sure, Itachi would come back every now and again to check on his wife, an unborn child, but he would leave again after a few days. With a sigh, Kushina turned off the lights as she walked out the door. She had a 12-year-old son to talk to, hopeful she can also get him to clean up the Hokage monument as well. To be continued. What if Kushina trained Naruto after Wave? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.